Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Okay, so it is January of the new year, it is 2024, so I thought that it would be a fun little idea to go through all the books that I read last year in 2023 and talk about what I felt about them. Yeah, that's what we're going to do today. We are going to talk about all 40 plus books that I read in 2023, and we are going to go through them chronologically, starting from the very first book that I read to the very last book that I read. And if you like this video, then please remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you know when I upload next. Alright, thank you, and let's get into it. So starting off in January, we have Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo. This YA fantasy is the second book in the Shadow and Bone / Grisha trilogy. The series follows a girl, Alina, who discovers that she has like these sun summoner ability powers, where, she can harness light magic and all that stuff, and is destined to one day destroy this dark, shadowy realm in her world known as the Fold, and all who seek to control it and the monsters inside. Through training, determination, and bravery, Alina will lead armies of mortals and magicians, unite her war-torn country, and fight back the darkness that threatens to destroy her world to one day become the prophesized Sun Summoner. This book specifically deals with the more political side of the conflict, with like the monarchy and the Grisha army and Alina's growing reputation as like a god due to her unique abilities, along with her and her boyfriend having like relationship problems because he's insecure about all the fame that she's getting. Now, I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. Now, quite a few people have said that this book is boring, but I actually found it really interesting and better than the first one, actually. I liked seeing Alina struggle to find her place in the conflict, because while, like, to the outside world, she's like this, oh my god, she's a god, she has these unique powers, she's amazing, all this kind of stuff. To the people on the inside, like the actual powerful people, like the monarchy, and, like, especially other Grisha, she's just like, okay, who the fuck is this new bitch? Like, so it was kind of interesting seeing her like try and grapple with like, okay, where do I fit in? How do I use my abilities to, save the world like I'm supposed to? All this kind of stuff. I will say though, Alina and Mel's relationship problems, they were so boring. Girl, they were so boring. It was literally the worst part of this book, because he's just insecure about her growing reputation and like her getting all this fame and respect and everything, and he just like can't take it. I'm sorry, he can't. It's boring. He really was acting like an incel in this book. But other than that, I really did enjoy this one, and it was a great way to kick off the year. The next book that I read is Star Wars Darth Plagueis by James Lucena. This is a Legends novel about Palpatine's Sith Master, Darth Plagueis. It follows Plagueis during his life as he trains Sidious in the ways of the dark side and studies the Force, trying to find a way to gain immortality in the lead up to the Jedi Order's imminent demise. I unfortunately gave this one a DNF rating. I did not finish it. Now, everyone who reads Star Wars books is like, oh my god, this is amazing, this is great, like, this is, it should be recanonized, all this kind of stuff. But I'm sorry, I was bored. I was really, really bored with this one. To me, Plagueis was just kind of insufferably dull. I'm sorry, he was. And he was also so snobby. Ugh. Like, I know he's a Sith Lord, but still. There just wasn't any fun to him, or his story. I'm sorry, there wasn't. Now, granted, I did drop this book about 70 to 100 pages in, so before he even met Palpatine. There was still I don't know, 200-300 pages left in the story when I dropped it. And I did skim past the rest of it to see if it ever got any better. And the sections of him training Sidious actually did look pretty interesting in what I signed up for when I first picked it up. But I just really didn't have the energy to slog through the boring parts to get to those more interesting parts, so I ultimately DNF'd it. Next is The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber. This is the second book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart YA fantasy series. This series follows this girl, Evangeline, who basically sells her soul to an evil god to help her with some personal struggles. Afterwards, she moves to a new country and starts a new life, and basically gets her fairy tale life that she always dreamed of, like living in a magical village and marrying a prince and becoming a princess and all this sort of stuff. But everything starts crashing down around her when the god comes to collect his debt owed. I gave this a 5 out of 5 ranking, and it is one of my top 3 favorite books of the year. The ending, y'all. The ending still has me shook. Like, I'm reading the 3rd book right now, and I'm really enjoying it. And the ending of this one still has me shaken. Like, oh my god. First of all, don't you dare say anything bad about Miss Garber over here, okay? On this channel, Stephanie Garber is a mother, okay? We love her over here. So don't say anything bad about her or else you're getting blocked. Like, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. Like, sorry. If you say anything bad about Stephanie Garber or her books, I will literally become your sleep paralysis demon for like the next 50 years. Sorry, I don't like the roles. Anyway, this book is so fun, it is so magical, and it is so romantic. Like, it's dreamy, it's cozy. This is like what all the crappy romantasy books over on TikTok want to be. Like, there is like a lovely balance of like plot and romance that like many authors struggle to achieve, in my opinion. And this is probably like the one time that I can actually kind of get behind the toxic main ship, because it doesn't try so hard to be edgy or broody like I feel like a lot of other books with like a toxic main ship do. You know, it's just kind of there. It's kind of cute. It's kind of vibey, in my opinion. Like between Evangeline and Jax. And this series, in my opinion, perfectly captures the meaning of modern fairy tale in like every sense of the word. Like, from the world, to the writing, to the plot, to the characters, to the aesthetic, to the different magics. Like, everything is so lovely, and I am so excited to be reading the 3rd book right now. Alright, moving on into February, we have Babel by R.F. Kuang. Now, this one I think is like a little bit hard to like explain, so I'm going to read the official like description for it. So here we go. 1828, Robin Swift, orphaned by Clara, forgive me if I say that wrong, in Canton, is brought to London by the mysterious Professor Level. There he trains for years in Latin, Ancient Greek, and Chinese, all in preparation for the day he'll enroll in Oxford University's prestigious Royal Institution of Translation, also known as Babel. The tower and its students are the world's center for translation and, more importantly, magic. Silverworking, the art of manifesting the meaning lost in translation using enchanted silver bars, has made the British unparalleled in power as the arcane craft serves the Empire's quest for colonization. For Robin, Oxford is a utopia dedicated to the pursuit of knowledge, but knowledge obeys power, and as a Chinese boy raised in Britain, Robin realizes serving Babel means betraying his motherland. As his studies progress, Robin finds himself caught between Babel and the shadowy Hermes Society, an organization dedicated to stopping imperial expansion. When Britain pursues an unjust war with China over silver and opium, Robin must decide. Can power institutions be changed from within, or does revolution always require violence? Now, I gave this one a 5 out of 5, and it is one of my favorite books of the year. Now, I personally loved it. The fact that I'm white might play a role into that, because in the reviews, I've generally seen a lot of white readers like absolutely love this book, while quite a few black and Asian readers have a few problems with it, so I don't know. I loved the writing, I thought it was beautiful and intellectual, fitting since we're at an academic setting, without feeling snobby and pretentious. Like, the writing was just very, very good. The plot was very good and interesting at every stage of the story. None of the characters were boring. I enjoyed following all of them, especially our main four, and all the different discussions about privilege that they had, like male privilege, white privilege, light skin privilege, etc., and how those things affected the story and the relationships between our main four, like over the years that they're at college. I also really like the magic system in this book. Like, I'm sure the power of language and or translation has been done before in some sort of media, but like I've never personally seen it done. So to me, reading about like, oh, word translation, all this kind of stuff being like the main magic system, it was really, really cool and really, really interesting and unique for me. And I also found it interesting how like the magic of words like powered everything in British society, and how seamlessly and deeply the author tied the magic system into the colonialism of the empire. Overall, I thought this book was great. It was brilliantly written and thought out, as well as emotional at many parts, especially the end. Like, if you know, you know. Like, I personally found the ending very emotional. And I want to read more books by Kwong in 2024. I really do at some point want to get to like Yellowface. I've heard mixed reviews about that, but I don't know. I kind of want to get to that at some point. I also really want to get to the Poppy Wars, that series. That sounds really interesting. Next up is Ruin and Rising by Lee Bardugo. This is the third and final book in the Grecian trilogy. This one is about the villain gaining more magic and political power than ever, and Alina and her friends racing against the clock to do and sacrifice whatever it takes to stop him before he dooms their world to darkness. Now, I give this a 5 out of 5. This is also a favorite of the year. This, in my opinion, is the best book in the series. Sorry, it is. The stakes are higher than ever. The adventure Alina goes on is so fun and exciting. The side characters are more interesting than ever to follow in this book. And the ending, it is so satisfying. It makes perfect sense for who Alina is and what she wanted from the beginning as like a character all along. The climax / final battle, though, yeah, it was kind of boring. I will say that. The climax was a little boring and kind of underwhelming in about almost every way. Like, that's the one downside of this book, but like everything else, I really loved it. It was so good. My thoughts on the series overall, like in general, the Grecian trilogy / Shadow and Bone trilogy, it's standard 2010s YA fantasy, but like in a good way. It has a lot of classic things that you would expect from this type of book series, like the Chosen One thing, a medieval coded world, a love triangle, elemental powers, etc. But it's all like elevated in a way that makes it stand out. Like, there's a reason that this got so popular. Like, I personally love it. I really do. Moving right along, of course, this is here, Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. I read this in February and again in August when the movie came out. What is this about? This is an adult romance where the US president's son falls in love with a British prince. The two of them have to navigate how to have and develop such a high-profile queer relationship in secret, or risk the wrath of the British monarchy and potentially cost the president her re-election. Now, obviously, I talked about this quite a few times on my channel, and if you follow me on Twitter, you know that I love this so much. So obviously, I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It's a favorite of the year. It's a top 3 favorite of the year. Okay, honey? It is. Anyone that does not like this book or movie, you're going to the electric chair. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't make the rules here. Like, you're being reported to the FBI, you're getting sent to the guillotine. Like, sorry! I will not hear a word against Alex, Henry B, Nora, Pez, or any of the other good characters of this book, so obviously I loved it. Like, I loved it. It's fun, it's exciting, it's romantic, it's hot, it's interesting. I laughed, I teared up, I felt the desire to love and be loved. I felt other things that I can't mention here, especially when watching the movie, and you can't blame me for that, okay, bitch? You can't blame me for that. And I love the plot, I love the characters, I especially quite relate to Henry, honestly, I really do. I love the emails, I love the backstories, I love everything about this book. I got the collector's edition for Christmas, and I'm so excited to read the bonus chapter. I'll leave it at that, because I cannot explain every last little thing that I love about this book, and like every last little detail and scene and aspect that I love about this book. Otherwise, we would be here for hours, honey, like we would. Next up, Legend by Marie Lu. This is a YA dystopia, and it is the first in the Legend trilogy. This series takes place in like a post-apocalyptic US, where like what's left of the West Coast is known as the Republic, and what's left of the East Coast is known as the Colonies. You follow these two kids, Day and June, as they navigate the fucked up political scene of this world, dodging plagues, switching loyalties, facing war, and becoming the faces of revolution. The first book has Day as a street kid who is wanted by the Republic because he's known for like staging large-scale acts of protest against the government, while June is a prodigy raised within the Republic's elite class and has recently been asked to become a field agent for the government. Day is accused of murdering June's brother, so she is sent on the hunt to do whatever she can to bring him in for justice and pay for his crimes. But along the way, the two may find out that they have more in common than they think, and both of their lived experiences only make up part of what is really going on within the Republic's realm of secrets. Now, I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. It is simple, it is easy to read, it's pretty predictable, and it's enjoyable. It's a good introduction to many of the main heroes and villains, as well as the world at large, without, overloading you with information. Yes, the plot plays it pretty safe and standard here, but honestly, I think it's done well. I think it's written pretty well, especially for the age demographic that it's aimed at, 13 to 15, so I really, really enjoyed it. Next, let's move on to March, starting off with Crazy Rich Asians by Kevin Kwan. This is said to be about this woman who gets engaged and flies to Singapore to meet her fiance's family for the first time, only to discover that his family is incredibly wealthy, and gets flung into the glamorous world of Asia's top 1% and all the family drama that comes with being a poor girl from the States. Again, this is another DNF, unfortunately. What this book doesn't tell you is that it only focuses on the main girl and her fiance and all that drama. It only focuses on that part of the time. Okay, so let me explain. I watched the movie a few years ago and really, really enjoyed it. I haven't seen it since then. I'm sorry. I think I watched it in 2018, 2019. I haven't watched it since then. I would like to watch the other movie adaptations whenever those get filmed, in 2056, when they finally film the other two adaptations. I would like to watch the other movies at some point, but So I was interested in reading this book, and I finally got around to it, and yeah, it just wasn't for me. I'm sorry. The author does a really great job of creating a hectic big family environment, but it was a little too overwhelming for me. To me, there was just too much taking away from the main couple and their love story. There are so many different families, and each of them have different backstories and this and that and different plots, and it's all just elaborate and stuff like that. And it felt like whenever anyone new was introduced, including the background characters that were only there for one scene, we had to pause everything and take a minute to go into their backstory and who they are and how they're connected and all this kind of stuff and blah 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 blah, for every single person. And when multiple people are being introduced in a scene, you can see how that really slows things to a grinding halt. Yeah. If this had just focused on the main girl being thrown into the glamorous rich world of her boyfriend's family while his mother tries to do everything in her power to break them up, then I probably would have really liked it, honestly. But it just didn't. It was focused on her and cousins and other cousins and aunts and uncles and all this sort of stuff, and it was just too much. It really was just too much for me to keep up with. I'm sorry. Moving right along, we have The Perfect Marriage by Geneva Rose. This is an adult thriller about this guy who is accused of killing his mistress, and then his wife decides to represent him in court. Conflict of interest to the extreme, but I love messy drama in books, so I was curious. And I gave this a 1 out of 5 stars. Okay, honey, this was so bad. Oh my god. Gaslight, gatekeep, girl boss, but in a stupid way. It really, really was. The writing was poor, the characters were flat and annoying. My god, I especially hated that SOB's mother. Oh my god. The plot was just dumb and then lazily excused at the very end. I know nothing about being a lawyer, but all of the lawyers on Goodreads in the comments about this book were having a stroke because of what was going on. They were all throwing a fit over this, so I can only assume that the lawyer aspect was not done very well either, apparently. Now, I'm gonna spoil this whole book, so if some ungodly reason you want to read this, then, skip ahead a little bit. But, yeah. Okay. So, the ending. The ending was so dumb, and it was just a way for the author to, get to the end without really having to do much work to actually make the plot/concept work. Because, literally, the husband does everything in his power to sabotage his own case and make himself look like a crazy killer. From conducting his own stupid investigation to setting off his ankle bracelet, to assaulting someone at the wife's law firm because he thinks that's the person who's framing him in this case, like, whatever. No one even questions why the wife would represent her cheating husband in a life or death case, and, like, all of the evidence we got to frame the husband as the murderer is, like, so surface level that it feels like we're playing a knockoff version of Clue, honestly. And any evidence to, like, try and defend him or, like, prove that he's innocent, it just, like, does not exist or, like, mysteriously disappears or whatever. And, like, no one can find anything to help, like, prove his innocence, even with several people working on the case. But, like, all of this is excused at the very end, with the wife at the end revealing to the reader that, like, I planned this all along. I manipulated everything so the evidence would undoubtedly make him guilty from the start, and I manipulated him into making himself look guilty, and no one found me out all these years later, 'cause I'm just that good and trustworthy. Mwahahaha. Like, okay. Okay, now, if I'm being honest, I don't actually really fault her actions themselves. Like, he cheated on you, and he is not regretful about that at all. Like, he's not even pretending to be regretful. Like, he full-on cheated on you, and, like, wants to blame you for it then also. Like, hell yeah, use your lawyer powers to, like, get him to the death sentence, honey. I support that. Get it. But, like, just the way that everything took place and was written was so bad. It was so bad. So, like, having everything be so stupid and badly written from the start, and then at the very end, having her be like, I planned all of this, it was just the cherry on the, like, shit cake of this book. Like, it was so bad. Oh my god, I really, really hate this book. I don't know why this is popular on Book Talk. Well, I do know why, because Book Talk does have questionable takes quite a few times. Anyway, let's move on. Next is The Davenports by Crystal Marquis. This is a YA historical romance centered on the lives of the Davenport family, a wealthy black family in the 1920s Chicago, and some of the people around them. You've got the older daughter who is trying to uphold her parents' expectations of being a proper young lady, but secretly wants to be an activist. You've got the younger daughter who wants to be a mechanic and take on the family business, despite her family forbidding it and wanting her to be like, ugh, stop with the cars, just be a proper young lady, you know, all that kind of stuff. And the younger daughter starts a love affair with the older daughter's fiance. It's, ooh, okay. And then you've got one of the young maids who dreams of opening her own salon and has, like, a crush on the son of the Davenport family. And finally, there is a family friend who is expected to marry into the Davenport family because her parents, their fortune is nearly in ruin, so she is being expected to marry for money, but her heart is falling for a poor man instead. It's this whole thing. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. I really liked it. I enjoyed it a lot, and I'm very excited for the second book releasing sometime in 2024. I think it comes out in April, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not exactly sure. I'll have to check. But, like, yeah, I really enjoyed this. I'm excited for the second book. All of the characters were enjoyable to hang out with, and I really like their plot lines, especially since they all seem to, like, take situations that we see often in fiction, like, for example, wanting something different than your parents want, but it's put in, like, a different circumstance than usual. Like, normally that sort of plot line will be like, I'm expected to take on the family business, but I want something else in life. I'm passionate about something else. But in this instance, it's like, I want to take on the family business, but they're like, no, shut the fuck up, you're a woman, you can't do that, so, like, go and do something else. It's like a reverse of the usual, you know, typical plot line that we see normally. If that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense, but you know what I mean, you know what I mean. So, like, stuff like that, you know, gave this book, like, a unique element to it for me, and, like, made it stand out a bit more for me. I think if you like the American Royal series by Catherine McGee, you will love this book also, because they kind of have, like, the similar feeling that, like, we're following an elite class family and the people surrounding them, and there's, like, multiple protagonists that all have their own things going on that they need to work through. So, yeah, I think if you like that series, you'll really like this series, and hopefully the second book that comes out this year. Like, I really liked it. I'm really excited for it. Moving right along to April. First off, we have When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. This is an adult thriller about a black woman who moves back home to the neighborhood she grew up in, and at first, everything is normal, everyone she's known her entire life is still there, it's a nice community of people, etc. But then all of her POC neighbors start mysteriously disappearing overnight, and seemingly being replaced by white people the next day. At first, it just seems like, oh, people are moving, people are getting older, they're moving away, stuff like that. But then more and more people are disappearing overnight, even including the small business owners in the area. Like everyone just kind of gets up and leaves overnight, without a trace, And it's weird. It's this whole thing of okay, what's going on? This is weird. Everyone's being replaced. And so the main lady, Sydney, decides to team up with this guy in her neighborhood, Theo. He's white, by the way, which is relevant to the story. The two of them start investigating to get to the bottom of what's going on before she is the next to go missing. I give this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I really, really enjoyed this book. I like the characters, I like the environment, and the atmosphere of this book. The atmosphere is really, really good. And the mystery was so interesting to follow, to see where it went, see what happened next. I really, really liked it. The author does such an amazing job of making you feel the same emotions that the main lady is feeling. Cause she'll very clearly hear someone in her house, for example, but when she goes to look for who the intruder is, there's no one there. The doors and windows are locked, there's nobody there, etc. But she can just feel in the air that something is different, something is off, someone has been here, something has been moved, all that kind of stuff. Or she'll have these weird experiences in the neighborhood that are just so bizarre, so crazy. But then other people will be like, oh no, that didn't happen, that's weird, that didn't happen, you're crazy. And it just creates this sense where both the character and I was am I going crazy? Did this really weird thing just happen? Or what, is it something else? Is it paranoia? Is someone really coming for her? This feels real, but everyone else in the book keeps saying that it's not, besides her and the neighbor guy, everyone else keeps saying that oh no, you're crazy, this stuff is not happening, but it feels real, so what's really going on? It's are we going crazy? Is something really happening? So I really liked how the author was able to do that, making you feel the same paranoid, freaked out emotions that the characters were feeling. I will say the ending does fly off the hinges a little bit. It flies off the railing a little bit. But you know what? Everything else in this book was done really, really well. I really enjoyed it, so I can give the ending a pass. Well. Next up is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. This is a young adult fantasy about a mortal girl, Jude, who lives in this magical world full of fairies and mermaids and all that stuff. She's at that age where she was trying to figure out what she wants to do career-wise with her life, and after a series of events, is hired by the Crown Prince of the land to become one of his spies. After the Crown Prince is murdered in a coup at his coronation, Jude is thrust into civil war as she tries to figure out how to keep the crown out of the hands of evil. Now, the book talk girlies, if there are any watching this, are going to be screaming, crying, and throwing up when I say this. I gave this one a 2 out of 5 stars. Oh well. This is by far the worst book in the series. Yes, I did read the other ones in the series, and I'll get to why in a second. But this is by far the worst book in the series. The first, 60% of this book, it just kind of sucks. Because, the main character is whiny, and the plot just feels like we're stumbling from one day to the next, with, no real reason for being here at all. But, and this is why I picked up the other 2 books, but the last, 40% of this book, oh, honey, it's really, really good. It gets very good, very interesting, very quickly. So I decided to keep going and see if it got any better, which it very much did. This is, legitimately one of those series where, you just have to get through the first book. If you can get through the first book, you're good to go. It's one of those series, legitimately. Next up is Curse of the Night Witch by Alex Astor. No, I have not read Lightlark, and no, I do not plan on reading Lightlark, or its sequel. Yeah, I read the less popular Alex Astor book. Anyway, this is a middle-grade fantasy set on an island where everyone is born with a magic tattoo that marks them as exceptional at something, and also determines their role in society. The main boy, Tor, does not like his tattoo/gift/predetermined place in society, so on New Year's Eve he wishes for a new tattoo. When he wakes up, his new tattoo is a curse of death. So now him and his two friends have to travel across the island to find the mythical Night Witch, who is said to be the only one who can break the curse before he dies within a week. I gave this one a 1 out of 5 stars. Okay, I have a whole video on my channel talking about why I hate this book. So I won't rehash everything, but here's the main points, honey. Okay, here's the main points. The writing sucks. First off, let's get that clear. The writing sucks. Like, the kids that this book is aimed at could probably write a better book than Alex Astor. I'm sorry, they could. Like, the 11-year-olds who are supposed to be reading this, they could probably write the better book. Okay, they could. I'm still not sure how to properly explain this even months later, but, like, while reading, I got the feeling that, like, everything in the kitchen sink was thrown into this book. You know, like, every single possible idea that just, like, popped into the author's head was thrown in at some point. And it's like, no one told her that, like, you don't need to throw in everything. You know, some ideas can be left on the cutting room floor, you know. You don't need to throw in everything. Okay, but, like, the thing that really made me hate this book is the moral lesson at the end. Because, girl, the moral lesson of this book literally is just, hey, kids, so you need to, like, follow your predetermined path in life. You need to follow the expectations of your parents to a T. And, like, if you don't like what your parents expect of you, and, like, if you want something different out of life, well, fuck you. You deserve to be shunned out of society. That is so selfish of you. Oh my gosh. Like, how dare you actually want to form a life for yourself? Really? That is so selfish of you. Like, that's literally the moral lesson of this book. I'm not sure. I don't think. I want to believe that that's not what the author intended the moral lesson to be, but, like, that's how it comes off as, to me at least. 'Cause, like, what do you mean the main kid gets all of these magical and amazing and astonishing powers at the end? Like, all these new tattoos that grant him these, like, all new abilities? And, like, instead of feeling great and awesome and cool and epic like a normal person would, he's made to feel shame and guilty and, like, you know, more depressed than he was at the start of this book. Like, you know, so he's made to feel, like, so guilty because his mother, the, you know, chief of the village, who can, like, easily form new rules and laws and, like, help change society a little bit, you know, she is like, sir, I see you have all these new powers. Cover them up. Okay, wear, like, long sleeves and pants and everything in, like, 100-degree weather. If anybody asks, don't tell them anything. Like, you know, we cannot have you wandering around with all these new powers and everything, because it would just bring shame onto the family, because in this village, you can only have one power. Anyone that is born with 2 tattoos, 2 powers, they are shunned out of the village. So imagine what you would look like coming in here with, like, 50 powers, you know? That is so rude. Like, he's literally made to feel guilty for having all these cool new powers at the end of the book. He's literally made to feel guilty for wanting something different out of life. Like, instead of just accepting what he was born to be as. Like, are you insane? Are you insane? That's literally insane to me. That's the moral lesson of a kid's book. That's the moral lesson of a kid's book. You're insane. You're insane. That's stupid. I hated it. It was horrible. I hated it. Kids deserve better. They do. I hate this book. Next up is Star Wars Jedi Battle Scars by Sam Maggs. This story is set between the events of the video games Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, and is meant to be like a fun side adventure for fans of the series. Hi! This deals with the Mantis crew learning about this, like, new ship cloaking technology that is being developed by the Empire and being hired to steal the blueprints so the Empire can't finish developing it and start using it. Also, Marin has a fling with an Imperial chick in this one. Now, I gave this one a 1.5 out of 5 stars. Okay, now, I liked the relationship between Marin and her Imperial girlfriend, and, like, it's very, very clear that, like, that was the author's favorite part to write about this book. But girl, it takes up so much of the book. Like, everything else is an afterthought to the fling of a romance, you know. And the writing really isn't that strong either. I don't exactly know how to describe it, but something just feels off with the way, you know, like Cal, the main star of the series, and Seer were portrayed in this book. Like, There was just something wrong with them in this book, but I can't really place my finger on what it was, even all these months later. The plot is boring, and the mission they go on leads nowhere. Like, not even nowhere in a sense of like, oh, they don't realize it right now, but they've lit a spark that'll have, you know, tumbling effects and lead to something greater in the rebellion. No, 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 no. The plot literally leads nowhere in this book. Like, girl, I don't know what to tell you. It literally leads nowhere in the series. Point blank, period. Like, this plot literally does not accomplish anything for the Mantis crew. Not their personal goals, not their overall goals, nothing. It doesn't do anything of significance against the Empire. The planned technology discussed here is never seen again down the line, at least not in any Star Wars media that I've seen so far. It meant nothing. This plot meant nothing. I haven't been able to play Survivor yet, because I don't have a PS5, and I tried to download it on my computer for my birthday, and, like, it just wouldn't work on my computer. Like, my computer, like, was kind of, like, exploding, basically. Like, even on the lowest graphic settings, even on the lowest settings of everything possible, it still just was not working at all. So, I have not been able to play Survivor, but I read what happens. I know, but generally what happens. So, like, the stuff that happens in this book does not play in any effect whatsoever into Survivor at all. Not. You can skip this book entirely and just go from game 1 to game 2. You will not miss out on anything. I'm pretty sure not even Easter eggs. I mean, if you, like, really, really love the, like, Fallen Order / Survivor characters, then, like, okay, sure, go read it. But, like, don't go into it with any high expectations. Hell, don't even go into it with mid expectations. Like, it's just not that good. Next is Prodigy by Marie Lu. This is the second book in the Legend trilogy. After the events of the first book, June and Day are on the run and have joined a rebel group working against both the Republic and the colonies to gain liberty and justice for all. Because, like, we're in the United States, bitch. Day's section of the story focuses on showing us the world from the Rebels' point of view, while June's section is about her being sent in as a spy to win back the Republic's trust, and learning about how the new leader of the Republic wants to be better than the old leader. Now, I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. This one is, yeah, it's the worst of the trilogy. It's not, like, bad, but, like, the plot is clunky, the climax is underwhelming, and the pseudo-relationship between June and Andon, the, like, elector, new leader of the Republic, it's creepy. It's creepy in my opinion, it really, really is, because she's 15 and he's 20. Like, bitch, why are you fraternizing with a teenager? That's just creepy. No, absolutely not. Having said all of that, this book does do an amazing job expanding the world and showing the reader places and groups of people, like, outside of the Republic's walls, in a way that gives you a firm idea of, like, who/what is new, and, like, who/what they are and represent, and all this kind of stuff, and, like, what their goals are, and all that kind of stuff, without you even really having to spend much time there. Like, we go from, like, place to place, and, like, we, like, see lots of new people, and places, and all this kind of stuff, and, like, we're never in one place for very long, but, like, all the places and people that we do meet and see, we know very much, like, what their core values are very quickly. We get to know them very quickly. I did feel like that was very well done, the, like, world expansion, lore expansion, all that kind of stuff. Like, I felt like the expansion part of this book was very well done. And the ending, I feel like, sets up the final book well, but also creates a satisfying enough ending that if you wanted to drop the series now, you could without too many lingering questions. Moving right along to May, we have Silver Sails by Abeka. Ooh, do I really want to talk about these books? Because the last time that I did on my channel, I got in trouble in real life with family. So do I really want to talk about these again? We're going to. Alright, so I made a video a few months ago on Abeka books, reading, some books from my elementary school age, and, like, seeing if they were any good or not, because I've heard a few things about, like, Abeka, the school curriculum here in the US for, like, conservative Christian schools. I heard a few things about it, and I was like, okay, well, I had that when I was little, so, like, why not go and revisit that and see if it's as bad as people say they are. Long story short, yes, all of the books in that video were horrible.
absolutely horrible. So, but this is where it started with silver sales back in May. Yes, I gave this a 1 out of 5 stars. I'm pretty much just going to like brush past these as quickly as possible, simply because like they're all kind of the same, and I already have like a full video on these books, so yeah. But this one is basically just like a short story collection meant to like teach children about the values of conservative Christianity, like, obedience and prayer. The writing was poor, which is not really good considering this was slash is part of like a school curriculum. The moral lessons were shit. There is sexism, of course, because of course there was. It's conservative Christian bullshit. And it was boring. Next. Next is Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. Now, I have a full video on this one, so I will not get too deep into it, but this is an adult romance about a woman, Tate, who moves into her brother's apartment and then starts having like a fling with the next door neighbor guy, Miles, and longs for something more with him. You also get Miles' POV from like years ago when he was like in high school, and like it's about this like traumatic relationship, but that made him like swear off love forever until like he meets Tate and like she changes him and whatever. Ugh. I gave this one a 1 out of 5 stars, and it made the top 3 worst books of my year. Alright, like I said, I have a full video on this, so I'm not going to go too deep into it, but if you want an I can fix him story, like, I guess this is the book for you. I don't know why you would read this instead of just going to watch Beauty and the Beast or something, but like, okay, if you want an I can fix him story, here you go, I guess. Like, not to be judgmental, but like, I really do question the sanity of people that like this book. Like, not to be rude, but like, I do question y'all's sanity. Like, okay, so I put this in romance, like in quotes, cause like, it really is just diet erotica. Like, it's not on the graphic level of like A Court of Mist and Fury, which we will talk about later, but like, all Tate and Miles do in this book is just hook up all the time. Like, there's no romance. It's just them having sex all the time. Like, it's boring. It really, really is boring. And they do it at like very inconvenient time, at like very weird times. Like, there was one part in the book where like he just had like a mental breakdown, and then like she's crying too, and then they decided to do it on his kitchen floor right at that moment as like tears are streaming out of both of their faces because they're having emotional breakdowns. Huh? But what really makes this book horrible is the Miles side plot from years ago, from his POV, where like he literally dates his stepsister and gets her pregnant, and they have the kid. Really? That's what we're doing here. We are romanticizing incest. Lovely! Lovely. Don't we all love that? Oh my god. I can't. I cannot. Even with this book, it's so bad. But oh my god. Like, it's so bad. Girl, and the writing too. Like, I swear to god. Like, a 10-year-old on Wattpad could write a better story than this. Like, I swear to god. The writing was so bad. Oh my god. Let's move on. Next up is Growing Up Where Jesus Lived, once again by Abeka. This is like an activity, fantasy, a travel guide, a propaganda book, like trying to hype up kids about how great it would have been to live in the land of Jesus over 2,000 years ago, and how society was like so much better back in the day like than it is now. 1 out of 5 stars. I don't understand the point of this book, like, at all. And it's an Abeka book, so of course it has bad writing, bad morals, boring sexism, all that stuff. But also, like I said, like, I don't understand the point of this book. Like, its whole thing, its whole purpose for existing is just to tell kids, oh my gosh, guys, wouldn't life be like so great if we could like go back to 2,000 years ago? Like no electricity, everyone stinks, no real education, predetermined path in life. If you deviate a little bit from what, you're supposed to do in life, you're evil, obviously, In the sand, oh my god, it's rough and coarse and gets everywhere. Doesn't that sound amazing? Like, no, it does not sound amazing. Uh, uh, bitch, I'm 99% sure your audience of like 7-year-olds is not going to like understand or really give a fuck about like the deeper message of like wokeism ruins society. This book has no point. There's no purpose to this book. Anyway, let's move on. Story Tree by Becca. This is just another short story collection about conservative Christian values, like 1 out of 5 stars. You know the drill at this point, same as before. Writing, morals, boring misogyny, just everything was done worse in this one than Silver Sales, like it really, really was. And I don't think that this one had like a central thing. Okay, so you know how like a lot of short story collections usually have stories all revolving around like something. You know, they all have something linking them together. They all have like a commonality, whether it be like a certain theme or like types of characters written about or like everyone connected to like a central person or a central plot line, whatever. Most short story collections like have something to link them all together. But this one just didn't. It really didn't. Like the stories were just all over the place in both their lessons and characters to the point where like some of the morals were contradicting each other. Like I talked about this more in my video dedicated to this topic, but still. Let's move on. The Wicked King by Holly Black. This is a young adult fantasy and the second book in the Folk of the Air series. It is the sequel to The Cruel Prince. Taking place a few months after The Cruel Prince, we're following the main character Jude as she is wrestling with the power of politics in the land of Fairy. Her former rival Cardan sits on the throne of the kingdom, but he's merely Jude's puppet. While she's the real power, war is on the horizon as the Queen of the Ocean plots to overthrow the kingdoms of the land, and Jude must figure out how to stop her while not revealing herself out in the open. I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed this so much more than the first book. Like, I really, really did. And I think that this is my personal favorite of the trilogy. Yeah, I think it is. I like the new dynamic between Jude and Cardan. I like the world slash lore expansions that this one had. And I also really like the betrayal at the end. Like, it had me gagged a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I wasn't surprised by the betrayal at the end, but I was also kind of gagged. Like, yeah. It was just an overall fun time. Next up is It Ends With Us by Colleen Hoover. Lovely. This is an adult contemporary book. Okay, it's not a romance. I don't care what Coho or her publishers say. This is not a romance. Like, by any stretch of the imagination, this is not a romance. But anyway, this is a book about a woman, Lily Blossom Bloom, who owns a flower shop. If I had to hear that over and over again, so do you, because it's just so fucking stupid. Lily Blossom Bloom, who loves to garden and owns a flower shop. Creative genius down there. Like, creativity. Okay, I get like intentionally naming your characters something that has to do with either like their role or their plot or whatever in the book. Like I'm doing that with my characters in my own story to a certain level. Like I'm doing that. But it's not this fucking obvious. Like when it gets to like this obvious where like Lily Blossom Bloom who owns a flower shop, you're unserious. You're unserious. You've lost the plot. You are unserious. Okay? But anyway, so Lily gets into this like abusive relationship with this guy named Ryle, and you follow her as she like figures out how to reclaim her strength and get out of the relationship. I gave this one a 1 out of 5 stars. It also made the bottom 3 worst books of the year for me. First off, I have a whole video on this also that you can go watch later. The bad thing about this book is I can see the skeleton of a good story here. I can see the skeleton of a good story here. But, like, it was written by Colleen Hoover. It was written by Colleen Hoover. That's the problem. If this book was written by anyone else, well, maybe not anyone else, but, most anyone else, this could actually probably be a really good story and probably be pretty powerful, actually. But because it's written by Colleen Hoover, we get trash. Like, okay, I'm gonna drag Lily Blossom Bloom again because, like, girl, shut the fuck up. Like, Colleen was sitting at her laptop writing the story and, like, drafting it and being like, ooh, Lily Blossom Bloom, who owns a flower shop. I am brilliant. That is so good. That is making the cut right there. Oh my god, that is amazing. Like, shut up. But anyway, like, no. One of the things that really like pissed me off about this book is that even after Lily experiences like all types of abuse at Ryle's hands, like physical, mental, all that kind of stuff. And she eventually leaves him, thank God. She still willingly enters a co parenting agreement with him. Not court ordered, not anything of the sort. She's just willingly like, oh, I'm going to trust my baby with him. Alone. Multiple times a week, or at least like every other week. What? Are you dumb? Are you dumb? Colleen, are you dumb? Why did you think that was a good idea to put in the book? I'm curious, because that makes no sense. Like, why would you trust this guy who you know is very, very abusive with your baby? That's weird to me. That makes no sense. No one in their right mind would do that. Okay. But also, the other thing that pissed me off is we get Lily's like backstory. We get like a side plot of her from like when she was in high school and she had this thing with another guy called Atlas who she eventually ends up with at the end of the book, and I think the second book is about them and their relationship or whatever. I don't give a fuck. But anyway, we get this backstory of her and this Atlas guy dating in high school, and it was so creepy. It was so fucking creepy because she's like 14, 15, 16 at that time in the story, while he's like 18, 19. No, 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 that's gross. Colleen, you are romanticizing pedo bullshit with that. You really, really are. It's disgusting. But yeah, this book is just awful. And like, girl, again, with the writing, like, Colleen, your writing skills are the equivalent of like an eighth grader who consistently gets D's in English class. Like, you might think that I'm being mean when I rag on Colleen Hoover, but A, like, I don't really care. She romanticizes evil shit. But also, B, the whole like, oh, don't say things on the internet if you wouldn't say it in real life. Yes, honey, I would say this to her in real life if I ever met her. Like, her books suck. What do you want me to say? Anyway, let's move on to June, starting off with Footprints, once again by Abeka. This is another short story collection spreading Christian conservatism. Once again, 1 out of 5 stars. You know the drill at this point. Writing, morals, sexism, boring, bad, 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 bad. The only upside is that out of the 3 short story collections that I read for that Abeka video, this short story collection was the best written. It was also the most boring, but it was the best written. So I guess half a point for that. Moving right along, we have The First to Die at the End by Adam Silvera. This is a new adult romance and prequel to the author's popular They Both Die at the End. In this world, there is a company called Deathcast that accurately predicts when you're going to die and calls on you on your end day to be like, sorry, like, rest in peace, we missed you, your life was great, but like, you know, this is your final day. Live life to the fullest. Bye, bestie. And this book centers on 2 boys, one of which is the first person to ever be called by Deathcast, and how the 2 of them develop like an instant connection and inspire each other to be like the best versions of themselves during their one day together. It's the same concept as the book. And that's why I gave it a D and F. Unfortunately, I did not finish this because it's a repeat of the first book. 2 boys who are strangers meet on the day that one or both of them will die. They form an instant love connection and help each other grow as people. Then one or both of them dies at the end. If I hadn't read the first book, I would probably really, really like this because I really love the first one. It made me cry, honestly. But I don't like repeat stories, especially when they kind of have the feeling of like the only reason that they exist is because the first one got really popular and made a lot of money, so let's do it again. If the relationship to this one had been like anything different, like 2 girls, childhood friends, a polyamorous relationship, or even make one or both of the boys trans, if you insist on keeping it between 2 boys who meet on the same day and blah, blah, blah. Like, just do anything different. Exes to lovers again, like enemies to lovers, something like that. Anything different besides, what we got. Just do it anything different. And this probably would have been a really, really good book, but that's not the book that we got. So unfortunately, yeah. Also, this one tries to expand on the lore of like the Deathcast company, and like, I'm sorry, but like, who cares? I'm sorry, but like, I don't care about Deathcast as a company. I am perfectly fine with with Deathcast just being like a plot device to like get the romance going. That's all I really care about. I don't care about the lore and like the company as itself. I don't care. And also, like, I really don't think most people, there's probably like a few people, but I don't really think most people who love the first book really care about how Deathcast works, at least not that much. So, like, what was the point? And I mean, granted, like, how Deathcast worked was like one of the biggest criticisms of the first book, but like, if you're going to address that here, like, what's the point? Because, like, if people didn't like the first one, they're not going to read this one. So they're not going to, like, have that criticism, satisfied for them by reading this one, because they're not going to read this one. It was just a mess. Let's move on. Next is One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. This is an adult romance where a woman, August, meets another hot lady, Jane, on the subway one day. Come to find out, Jane is actually time displaced from the 1970s, and has been trapped on the subway in her 20s for the past 40 years. Now, the two of them work together to break the time travel curse, and along the way, they become friends and then more than friends. But it's unclear what breaking the time travel curse means for Jane. Will it kill her? Will it send her back to the 1970s? Will it keep her in the present but free? Who knows? And August has to decide whether she's willing to let their love go or hold on to it, even if it means only really living a half life with each other. Now, I gave this one a 5 out of 5, and it is the third and final top 3 favorite of the year for me. Of course I loved it. That's why it's one of my top 3 favorites of the year. Like, of course I loved it. I'm gonna be honest, Red, White, and Royal Blue is still my favorite between the Casey McQuiston books. But this one is much better written, in my opinion, in pretty much like every way. Like, I love the cast, and I especially love that like the side characters in this one like all have their own lives and stuff going on. Like they don't all revolve around what the main ship is doing. They kind of have their own stuff going on. Like, I really like that. And I will say, some authors try their hand at the like, oh, we can only build our romance at this like specific place at the specific time. We can't really explore it outside of the specific context until like much later towards the end of the book. A lot of authors try to do that, and I think not a lot of them succeed in pulling off that concept, but this book did pull off that concept for me. Like, this is so fun. It's cute. There's like a doomsday clock element that like adds some suspense, but like it doesn't affect the overall like cutesy lovey-dovey vibe to this book. Like, and honestly, I think that there is room for a sequel to this, and I honestly would love one. I also got the collector's edition of this book for Christmas, so I read the short story from the collector's edition, and it was really cute. Also, it wasn't exactly what I was expecting. Quite honestly, like I was expecting it to follow up something different, just based on how the ending of this book happened. But I like I like the added little bonus chapter at the end of the collector's edition. I thought it was really cute. Next up is Star Wars Resistance Reborn by Rebecca Roanhorse. Taking place between the events of The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, you follow various Resistance fighters and Rebel veterans as they work to rebuild what's left of the Resistance to continue to fight back against the growing threat of the First Order. I gave this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars, and it is a favorite of the year, honestly. Okay, now I am one of the like 15 sequel trilogy stands in the world. I don't care. I love those movies. That's my trilogy. Of course, I really enjoyed this book. Of course, I am a sequel slut. Of course, I love this book. Like, it's fun, it's interesting, it's exciting. It brings in quite a few characters you wouldn't expect, like, what's left of the Inferno Squad or like Wedge Antilles, and introduces like new people that are entertaining. Like, heck, even like the whiny, snobby First Order officer guy that we follow for like parts of the book, he was interesting. I liked following him. I think is like what was his name? Like Bradford or something? I don't know exactly what his name is. I can remember the accent, the like snooty accent that the audio reader was putting on for his voice, but I can't remember exactly his name for it. But yeah, he was fun too. And like this book, it gave me plenty of cute little Finpo shipping crumbs. Like, I'm sorry. Yes, I am a diehard Finpo shipper, and this book gave me some of those little cutesy little crumbs between them, which I absolutely loved. It gave me everything. Side note that doesn't relate to this book, but like, girl, I need something specific in the new Rey movie, in the new Jedi Order movie. If if the actors who played Poe and Finn in the movies, if they sign on for the new Rey movie, I need their characters to be married. I need their characters to be married in the new movie. I do. I'm sorry. I do. I don't care. It's been 15 years. Yeah. Anyway, back to the book. I also really liked being in Leia's mind as she tries to figure out like how to be like the inspiring leader that like everyone expects of her while she's trying to rebuild the rebellion on the brink of destruction while also still grieving with the like very recent losses of both the love of her life, her ex-husband Han, and also her brother Luke, she's trying to juggle all of this stuff, and everyone's looking at her to be like the leader while she's got her own stuff to deal with. And like it was very interesting being in Leia's mind during this point of time. I also really like that the author tried her best to include Rose Tico as much as possible in this book because I'm sorry. I know no one likes Rose, but I do. I like Rose. I need her in more stuff. I need her in the new movie, okay? Her, Zori, Jana, I need them all in the new movie. I need everyone in the new movie. So I really like seeing her again and how the author like tried to incorporate her as much as possible. I the only thing that I will say about this book is I don't really like how Rey was used in this book because in my opinion, the author didn't really know what to do with Rey, but like knew that she had to be incorporated somehow because she's the star of the movies. So like she had to be here somehow. But like I feel like the author didn't really know what to do with Rey, so she just kind of like threw her in a corner and had her like sulking most of the time, like just kind of like, hi, hi guys, we're here. I want to help. That was kind of all Ray did in this book, which was disappointing because like I'm a huge Ray stan, so that was the only disappointing thing of this book. But like otherwise, I really enjoyed this. Next up is The Swiss Family Robinson, the abbreviated version by Abeka. This is about a family who gets stranded on an island and then lives there for like the next 10 years. Once again, 1 out of 5 stars. This book was so bad, but it was also so nothing at the same time. Like, obviously the same stuff as before with other Abeka books, writing, morals, all that kind of shit. But also throw in some racism and some like low key transphobia into the mix and like ecosystem destruction for like, just a little flavor. We gotta spice things up a little bit apparently. You might say some aspects like improve slightly if I had read like the full version of this book. And maybe you're right. That's a fair point. But also, the reviews on Goodreads for the full version and like my experience reading this abbreviated version, the same complaints were had. The racism, the ecosystem destruction, the like barbarianism by the Swiss family, just all of the annoying fuck ass characters, the like stupid ass plot, whatever. The whole nothingness, the whole boring aspect of it. Yeah, this is probably just a really bad book in general, abbreviated or not. So yeah. But anyway, let's move on. Next up is Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. This is the first book in a adult romance series that follows the relationship between Luke, the son of famous rock stars who is a mess in life but tries to be better, and Oliver, a seemingly put together, respected lawyer with hidden insecurities, and the adventures that they get up to alongside their melodramatic friends and family. This first book specifically is about Luke needing to like clean up his public image because he has like this reputation of being like a disaster party boy, and it's starting to reflect poorly on like the charity he works for, so it's decided that like he needs to get like a put together well respected boyfriend that he can be seen out and about with, clean up his image basically. Enter Oliver, who needs a date to some social events over the next few months, including an important family event. So the two decide to start fake dating to help each other in their mutual causes, and soon fake feelings become real. Now, I gave this a 4 out of 5, and it is one of my favorite books of the year. It's just fun and cute. What do you want me to say? And it gives me a lot of what I want out of a romance book. You got the fun trope to hook you got the interesting characters, the stakes are simultaneously reasonable and unrealistic, particularly with the media aspect. Like, the media would not give a damn about Luke. Like, let's be honest, considering the book honestly keeps saying that like his parents are supposed to be like these like C-list washed up celebrities from like 30 years ago that no one gives a fuck about anymore, the media would not care about him whatsoever. But like, if you ignore that, you know, you just kind of have to ignore that, honestly. But you know, the two of them help each other grow and become improved versions of themselves in their own way, which I always love. And the side characters, oh my god, I love the side characters in this series. They're just so wacky and melodramatic and unserious and ridiculous, but like in a good way, honestly. And yeah, I just really love this book. I'm gonna put my overall thoughts on the series so far here because I got some thoughts about the second book. So, what are my overall thoughts on the series so far? Is this series a literary masterpiece? No, that's why I took off a star, because it's not the best written, I will say that. But like it's fun. It's fun so far. Like this is just camp. I love all of the characters in the series. Well, at least the ones that you're supposed to like. And I would read like 1,000 of these books just to follow whatever mess Luke and Oliver and their friends and family get up to. Like, because they're just entertaining, you know? They really, really are. Now, I will say this. If you read romance for like specific tropes and plot lines, just read the first one. Just read the first one, because the second one ruins the series for a lot of people, at least according to like Goodreads reviews. So yeah, if you're like into like specific plot lines and tropes, only read the first one, honestly. But if you genuinely do like grow close to the characters and like just want to follow them on whatever the fuck they get up to, I can see you enjoying the second one, at least to some degree. At least to some degree. But we'll get into that later. Now we move on into the month of July, starting with A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. This is Beauty and the Beast, but make it worse, honestly. So this new adult, I don't care what the publisher says, this is not young adult. This new adult fantasy is about this girl, Feyre, who kills a fairy in the forest one day. And, like, as punishment for killing this fairy, she is whisked away from her horrible family that hates her and is brought to live in this magical place called, what's this place called again? Prithian. She's brought to this magical place called Prithian to like live in this gorgeous, beautiful mansion with this hot, rich fairyman that can transform into a furry if she's into that shit. You know, and and there's like all these servants at her will, and she's living in this nice big mansion, and there's magic everywhere, and blah 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 blah. And there's also this like alleged curse upon the land slash people, and this wicked fae known as Amarantha being a tyrannical dictator that Feyre eventually decides to go fight, which that really does not become relevant until like 3/4 of the way through the book, but that's neither here nor there. Now I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. It's fine. What do you want me to say? Like, there's nothing more or less to that. If you think of like every like standard fantasy book from like the 2010s and like all of the things that like, you know, generic fantasy usually has, this book has that. Okay, this has it all there. Like, the characters are fine. The plot is fine. The world is fine, but empty. The magic is fine. The romance is fine. It's nothing great, but it's nothing horrible either. You know, like, I don't know what you want me to say. Like, it's just there. It's bland. It's generic. Like, it's just bland, honestly. Which might be why it got so popular. Like, I was trying to figure out why the fuck this got so popular, because it's so boring. It's so generic. It's so just bland. But maybe that's why it got so popular, because it's so generic to the point where like it can reach as many people as possible. Maybe that's why it got so popular. But yeah, like it's just fine. But I will say this. The whole thing about her killing a fairy and then as punishment being whisked away to this mansion and everything, that's not punishment, girly. That's not punishment. That's inspiration. What do you mean? All that I have to do to get out of this life and go live my dreams and all this shit with like money and riches and a hot man on my arm. All I have to do is go kill a fairy. That's all I have to do. Okay, take me out to the nearest woods. Like, give me like, you know, something sharp in my hand. I will gladly go kill a fairy if it means that I can go get Feyre's life. Because like, what do you mean that's punishment? That's not punishment. Her family fucking hates her. That's a retreat. That's a vacation. That's an upgrade in life. Anyway, let's move on. A Reaper at the Gates by Saboteur. This is the third book in the Ember in the Ashes new adult fantasy series. I know it's technically labeled young adult, but girl, everyone in the series is like 20 plus years old, except for Leia, who is like 17 at the very first book, and then like 18 throughout the rest of the series. Like, it's new adult. It's new adult. And this book is basically just our three main characters, Leia, Alice, and Helene, suffering the entire time. They're just going through it. They're suffering. I gave this one a 5 out of 5, and it is a favorite of the year. Now, I love this series. I love this series. It's so good. And I am so excited and also sad, but like mostly excited to read the final book in the series in, you know, sometime this year. Because like, yeah, I'm really excited to do that at some point. I don't want to say goodbye to the series because I love this world. I love this plot. I love these characters. I love everything about this series. But also, like, I'm so excited to read it. This series is just so well crafted, from the world to the plot to the lore to the writing to the conflict of the factions to the characters to just everything. Like, this series is just so well written in every single aspect, and this one is no exception. I love following Leia as she is becoming like a symbol of hope for her people, even though she's just trying to do what she feels is right in this world. Like, she really doesn't care about being this like symbol of hope and rebellion. She's just trying to like save her people and do what's right. Like, I really, really love that. I also really love watching Helene struggle with like the political scene and play this like mental chess game between her and the commandment. Oh my god, like it's so good. Alice trying to figure out if he can balance being the next Grim Reaper with maintaining some of his humanity, and learning that trying to play like both ends just makes everything worse and brings about destruction, so he needs to like pick a side, honey. Like, oh, it was so good. I really liked following him on his journey. He was a flop in this one, but you know, we love a flop. We love a boy failure. We do. Anyway, and the ending, oh my god, the ending of this one, oh my god. Like, how are we going to save the world? Like, there's imperialism at an all-time high. There are demons all across the world now. Like, how are we going to stop and save the world? I don't know. Like, everyone is at their lowest of lows. Like, I have no clue how we're going to get back up and fight again. Like, okay, but love this. I love this series. I'm excited to read the fourth book sometime this year. Like, let's move on. Next is The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. This is a young adult fantasy and the third and final book in the Cruel Prince / Folk of the Air trilogy. Following the events of the second book, our main character Jude is the exiled queen of Fairy and must fight to regain her place in the kingdom. With war on the horizon against her treasonous father, all of her skills in battle and deceit will be tested as she fights for the throne and the future of the kingdom. 4 out of 5 stars, once again. My only real complaint with this one is that it's not long enough. Like, it's too short. I'm sorry. I would have gladly, you know, been here for a longer book, honestly. If that's my biggest complaint, that kind of just says how good this book is. Like, truly. Like, my biggest complaint is that I want it to be longer. Is that not crazy? Like, that's kind of crazy. We often talk about how books are like, oh, this book is too long, this book is too long, blah, 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 blah. No, this book is not long enough. I want it to be more because it's just that interesting. It was just that good. It's fast-paced, it's interesting, the story came to like a nice closing, and I really liked seeing Jude act like a real spy finally when she was like infiltrating her father's military camp. Okay, overall thoughts on this series. This is legitimately one of those series where like, you know, you just have to get through the first book and then you're good. You know, you just have to get through the first book and then you're good. Like I said, I really was not enjoying my time with the Cruel Prince up until like the, you know, failed coronation / coup happened. But ever since then, for the rest of the series, it's really good. It's really, really interesting and enjoyable. I don't think this is like the best series in the world, honestly, but I liked it. I did. I enjoyed it. I I just wish people would hype up the second and third books the same way that they hype up the first book, because, girl, the first book is not good. I'm sorry. It's not good for most of the time. It's not. The second and third books are so much better. Why don't y'all hype that shit up? Why don't y'all on BookTop hype up the second and third book, please? And yes, I am reading the Stolen Heir duology. I am currently about halfway through the first book. Yeah, the first book, because there's only one out. I am currently halfway through the first book in the Stolen Heir duology that is like the spin-off of this series. And yes, I will be reading the second book in the Stolen Heir duology when it releases later this year. So yeah. And on that note, am I enjoying it or not so far? It's okay. It's okay. It's interesting. It's also like, it's okay. Let's move on. Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Lightning Thief by Rick Riordan. This is a middle grade contemporary fantasy. Boy discovers he's the child of a Greek god, and then all the other gods accuse him of stealing something from them, so he goes on like a road trip with his friends to find this like missing object and prove his innocence. Along the way, they discover the value of like friendship and an evil plot to one day overthrow Mount Olympus. Yay, ooh. 1 out of 5 stars! Okay. I broke down my full thoughts on this book in my summertime wrap-up video for 2023. So, and it was long. It was quite long. So I'm not going to go through and break down all my thoughts on this again. But yeah, all I'll say is that this is perfect for the people who had like a Greek god slash I'm the main character of the universe phase in middle school at the exact same time. This is perfect for y'all. This is y'all's book. If you were like, I am going to self-insert myself into Greek mythology. I'm going to write fan fiction on Wattpad, inserting myself as like the child of Zeus or whatever, you know. This is the story for you. This is your series, honey, because this is exactly what that is. I'm so sorry. That's what this is. Because literally, Percy is basically just a Wattpad OC. He really, really is. You know, the constant villain monologues dragged at the pace of this book so badly. And also, I felt that there were some problematic elements, such as, for example, the only Muslim coded character being Medusa in disguise that wants to turn the kids to stone. Not really surprising, given Ryodin is a Zionist, apparently. Like, not really surprising he was demonizing the Muslim coded character. And I'm sorry, but as of right now, at least reading this first book, I'm on the villain side. I'm sorry! Like, what do you want me to say? The villains were kind of making points in this book. Like, I'm supposed to believe that overthrowing Mount Olympus is a bad thing, and killing all the Greek gods is a bad thing, when the way that they're portrayed in this book is that all of the gods do, is get together with hot mortals and then abandon their families when it comes time to pay some child support. That's it. That's all they fucking do. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Like, bitch, you are literal gods. I know you have some fucking money. So why is Percy and his poor mom living in this shitty ass, dirty, disgusting, rankety ass, trashy apartment and like barely scraping by? And why was Annabeth forced at the age of 7 to go live in the wilderness for a few weeks on her own? No support, nothing. Just go fight in the wilderness and hope you don't get eaten by some kid. Why was she forced to do that? Because both her Greek god and her mortal family didn't want her ass. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? And I'm supposed to feel bad for the gods? I'm supposed to be like, oh my god, overthrowing Mount Olympus would be such a bad thing. No! Fuck them. All of them. Just, no! I'm not big on my historical, Greek mythology. I don't really know much about that stuff. Maybe like, in Greek mythology, there's like a reason that the gods need to exist. I don't fucking know. I don't fucking care. Maybe there's like a reason down the line in the series that like, the villains do something so horrible that it's like, okay, we need to save Mount Olympus. We need to reluctantly save the gods. Okay. But I don't fucking care. I don't fucking care. I'm not reading the rest of the series for multiple reasons, especially because Rick Riordan is a Zionist. Fuck him. But, like, I'm not reading the rest of the series. So, like, as of right now, I'm on the villain side. Truly, truly, truly. And no, I am not watching the Disney Plus show that is currently airing because, A, it's not for me. I'm not the target audience. Like, it's not for me. No, it's not for me. and B, there's apparently quite a few other scientists on the project, at least from what I've heard. So, yeah, I don't really want to support a project with those kinds of people in it. Yeah, I really, really don't. But on that note, like, no hate to the kids acting in that series. Like, absolutely not. Like, the main three kids who are, like, playing the characters in that series, they seem so adorable. They seem so friendly. Like, love that for them. I wish them nothing but a bright and successful future career in acting. I really, really do. I hope that they go far and play. I hope that they go far and take this, to, like, the Oscars and the Emmys and whatever. I wish them all the best. But anyway, let's move on. Secrets in the Maple Tree by Abeka. This is the final book for that Abeka video that I released. Now, the official description of this is about this little girl who goes on a journey adjusting to life with a new stepmother and stepbrother and all the new changes and growing up that comes with that. However, that's only mainly in like the first third of the book, like the first 1/3 of the book. Then the middle just drops that entirely to do Adventure of the Week type of stories with Hilda, and then we kind of circle back to the original premise at the very end. So, yeah, 1 out of 5 stars. I will say this, out of all the Abeka books that I read for that video, this was the best. This was the best. It was the most enjoyable. It was the best written, I think. The writing here is at least passable. It's at least passable. Certain parts of it are legitimately interesting. Other parts of it are very, very boring, but certain parts of it are legitimately interesting. I was genuinely enjoying reading about Hilda adjusting to her new stepfamily, and I really do wish the book had like stayed on that concept instead of just wrapping it up so quickly and then floundering for the rest of the book to fill pages. But yeah. There's also some sexism, a hint of racism, and a dash of classism to top this off, so fuck off. Yeah. Anyway, let's move on to August. First up is Majesty by Catherine McGee. This is a new adult contemporary romance and light fantasy, and it is the second book in the American Royal series. This series is basically asking the question, what if the US had a monarchy instead of a presidency? And follows the lives of America's royal family as well as some close friends and potential enemies. You've got Beatrice, the eldest daughter, who is poised to become America's first female monarch, and the pressures and social struggles that come with that. There is Samantha, the second daughter slash princess, who has the reputation of being this party girl, but wants to be taken more seriously while not losing what makes her special. There is Nina, a close family friend who is besties with Samantha and briefly dates the son slash Prince Jefferson, and struggles with wanting to retain a private life while being close with the world's most famous family. And finally, you also follow Daphne, an ex of Prince Jefferson whose parents pressure her to do whatever scheming, plotting, and sacrifices are needed to win him back and manipulate a wedding ring from him so her family can move up the social hierarchy and get lots of that taxpayer money, honey. I gave this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. It was this close from getting 5 stars, but there was one specific reason why I took off half a point, and we will get to that in a second. But yeah, I gave this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars, and it is a favorite of the year. Now, I loved this. I loved this. It is so much fun, and it is so chiclety. Like, I loved it. This feels like you're reading like a gossip tabloid and then dishing to whoever will listen about the latest drama with America's royal family. Like, it really, really does. It feels like if you're like in the waiting room at like a hair salon or like at the doctor's office and you're like picking up like People magazine and like flipping through it and then you're like, oh my God, no way. Girl, did you hear what Samantha just did? Girl, did you hear what Queen Beatrice is up to? I know, right? Like, I can't believe she did that. Like, no, she needs to get away from that man. Like, or whatever, whatever. Like, it's so fun. It's so cool. It's just fun. I love it. I really, really do. I especially really liked Beatrice and Samantha in this one. They felt more interesting and purposeful in this book compared to the first one. And while Daphne is like still an evil monster, I've come around to like kind of liking her and like respecting her just a little bit. Yeah, like I still don't really like her, but I like her on an entertainment level. Like, Daphne's entertaining now. Like, okay, like, go off. Like, okay, with your little scheming and plotting, manipulating, and, like, backstabbing, whatever you gotta do. Like, okay, you're entertaining, girly. Only Nina seemed to be a downgrade in this one, truly. Like, Nina kind of seemed directionless now that she's broken up with Jefferson, and she keeps trying to like distance herself from the chaos of like the royal family, when that's what makes the series fun. Like, the chaos of the royal family is what makes the series fun. It's like, girl, if you're trying to distance yourself from that, like, leave. Go. Like, no. Like, okay, like, bye. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I like Nina, but like also like she was kind of directionless in this one. She was kind of boring in this one, in my opinion. This book did lose half a star for me though, because there were some points, especially in Samantha's POV, where it got a little pick me ish, like just a little bit. Like, Samantha is fake dating this respectable guy on the basis that they're trying to make their exes jealous and want to get back together with them. But then she actually starts falling for the guy that she's fake dating, and when the plan actually starts working and his ex starts becoming interested in him again, Samantha will make comments like, oh my god, like, she is nothing besides like some airheaded actress. Like, but she's just so obsessed with Instagram. Like, I don't know how anyone could like her. She's just some dumb airhead. Like, fuck her. And it's like, girl, this woman has not done anything against you except be interested in the guy that you also like. Like, that's her biggest offense, is like being interested in the guy that you like. Like, she hasn't done anything to you. Like, chill. Chill, Samantha. Chill. Other than that little bit of awkwardness, the rest of this book is just like so freaking fun, and I will be excitedly reading books 3 and 4 sometime in 2023. I think, don't quote me on this, but I think I'm gonna read book 3 come February or March. February or March. Yeah. Next up is Husband Material by Alexis Hall. This is the sequel to Boyfriend Material and the second book in the London Calling series. This one follows Luke and Oliver as they start feeling the pressure to get married and settle down in life, since they are hitting 30 and their friends are doing all of that, settling down, getting married, all that. So they're feeling the pressure to do it also. So they get engaged and start planning their wedding and navigate the stress of that and the test that it puts on their relationship. I gave this one a 2 out of 5 stars. Yeah, that's a noticeable downgrade. Now, based on the summary, you can kind of already see where the cracks in this start to show. I included this in my wrap-up a few months ago, so I won't rehash all of my problems, even though I'm looking at my script right now, and we got like a decently long rant, but anyway. But I really think that this book's main downfall is that it tries to address Oliver's problems, but it's told from Luke's point of view. Do we see the problem? Do we see the problem? How are we going to try and address one character's problem and then tell the story from a different character's point of view? That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. It should have been at least, at the very least, dual POV. It should have been, at the very least. If you're not going to tell it entirely from Oliver's POV, it should have, at the very least, been told from a dual POV perspective. It should have been. But anyway, also the main argument they had about their wedding was just so stupid. It really, really was. Okay. So Luke wants this like fully pride wedding with like rainbow everything, just cake, decoration, ceremony, everything. Make it look like a unicorn puked everywhere. Make it rainbow everything. Okay. Whereas Oliver wants something more traditional with like a church and all that, the standard white and black stuff, all. And for some reason, Luke turns this into like this whole moral debate about like, oh my god, how can you want this like traditional wedding when that's normally for straight people and it's so disconnected from who we are, especially who we are as a community. You have internalized homophobia. Work on that. Shut the fuck up. Luke, shut the fuck up. Just please shut the fuck up. And Oliver makes several good points, being like, okay, I like an aesthetic. So the fuck what? Like, you like your aesthetic, I like my aesthetic. So what? We can make compromises. Can we meet somewhere in the middle? And, just because, like, I'm not in tune with the community aspect of being gay doesn't make me a bad person. And also, much of pride has been taken over by corporations that hate us and donate to organizations and politicians actively taking away our rights. So forgive me, Luke, if I don't gravitate toward the hyper-capitalistic rainbow everything. And it's like, yeah. He actually makes several good points. He's right. Oliver is right on that. And he's allowed to feel that way, okay? He's allowed to feel that way. But then, towards the end of the book, it forces an identity crisis upon Oliver and starts making him question himself and being like, oh my god, wait, do I really have just internalized homophobia? Is that where all this stems from? Am I really just trying to live up to the expectations that I can never live up to, that my parents want me to be? Oh my god. It's like, come on. While not making Luke question anything about himself and whether he's in any way or any kind of wrong at all. Like, the book does not make Luke question whether he's wrong in any sort of way, but it makes Oliver go through an identity crisis at the end. Like, what? Bitch. No. And while I like the message that the ending has, I like the ending message that this book leaves off of like defining marriage on our own terms and like defining relationship on our own terms, blah, 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 blah. I like that message. I don't like how we got there. I don't like how we got there because this book dives into miscommunication, which I hate. I hate miscommunication. It is my least favorite trope in all of fiction. I hate it so much. It's like, we could have resolved this thing of like defining love on our own terms and all that stuff. We could have had that resolution and then like focused on other more important things throughout this book and like forgotten and dropped the wedding entirely and the stupid ass conflict and all this shit. We could have resolved all that if we had just had a conversation with each other at the very beginning. At the beginning, when we were like, do you want to get married? Do you want to get married? We could have had a conversation about defining love on our own terms at that point in the book. We didn't need to go to the end of the book to be like, I really don't want to get married. Neither do I. Let's define love on our own terms. We didn't need to wait until the very end of the book to have that message. We could have had that at the very beginning and moved on to more important things and more interesting things. We could have avoided all this random stupid ass bullshit that the rest of the book has if we had just had a conversation with each other at the beginning. I love how I went off script there for a while. I love how I went off script for a while there. And I said that I would not rehash all my problems with this book. But why does this get a 2-star? If I'm having this many problems with the damn book, why does this get a 2-star instead of a 1-star? The side characters, honey. The side characters save this book. They do. They do. The side characters keep the nice, fun energy and vibes going. They really, really do. Like, all of the friends, Luke's mom, whoever, they're just fun. They really, really are. They're fun. They are wonderful to hang out with. They are chaotic energy. They are a mess. They are, all this kind of stuff. They carry the lighthearted energy of this book hard. Because Luke keeps trying to bring down the energy every 2 seconds. Having said all of that, yes, I will read Father material when it comes out later this year. I will read the next book. If the 3rd book is worse than this book, I will drop the series after that. And just love the 1st book as a standalone. But I will continue with the series into the 3rd book, because even though it does have the potential to, be worse than this book, I do also really just like the characters, at least most of them. I still really do love most of the characters a lot, and I want to see what new adventures and wacky hijinks that they get up to. Next up is Killers of a Certain Age by Deanna Reborn. This is an adult thriller and is basically Golden Girls, but make them assassins. 4 older women have been working for this assassination organization known as the Museum for decades, but now they are retiring and being sent on a fabulous cruise to celebrate their wondrous and bloody careers. Until they are now the targets of assassination. Upon finding out that they are being framed for crimes they didn't commit and the organization they worked for is now hunting them down across the world, The ladies must use all of their experience in this ultimate game of survival in order to either clear their name or take out everyone who tries to collect on their bounty. I gave this one a 3.8 out of 5 stars. It's fun and it's camp. It really, really is. I laughed, I was invested, I liked the main four and their two allies. It had some fun twist. It's not that deep or serious, but it's not trying to be. And so that's okay. Like, it's not that deep or serious, but it's not trying to be. It's just here to be fun. This is a simple, action packed spy thriller with quite a bit of humor, and it works so well. And, like, I'm gonna say this, I know that this will not ever happen, but I honestly think it would be cool to see this adapted into like a movie or like a play, honestly, like a stage play. Like, I think that this could work as like a movie or a play, honestly.
Moving right along to September, we have Six of Crows by Lee Bardugo. In simplest terms, six misfits pull off the heist of the century. In longer terms, this is a young adult fantasy set in Bardugo's Grishaverse, and the first in the Six of Crows duology. It follows six kids, Kaz, Inej, Jasper, Wylan, Nina, and Matthias, as they are hired by the government to break into the most secure prison in the world and escape with a brilliant scientist in exchange for tens of millions of dollars, aka riches beyond their wildest dreams. And I gave this one a 3.8 out of 5. Until they get to the prison and like the actual heist starts, I was kind of bored, honestly. Before they got to the prison, the only parts that like really got me excited were stuff that was like referring back to the older books, like back to the original Grisha trilogy and stuff, like what was going in Ravka, Nina's relationship with Zoya, all that kind of stuff. Like those were the parts that were getting me really excited. But when the heist did take place, like the book really, really got good after that, and I was like really, really into it. It got really exciting after that. So, some good, some bad, oh well. The main thing I dislike about this book is the shipping aspect, because all six of them are coupled up, but the most toxic out of the three pairs is the one that gets the most spotlight. Look, I'm sorry, but I hate Nina and Matthias. I hate them together so badly. Like, okay, her by herself, she's cool. I like her. I like her when she's by herself. But when you pair her up with Matthias, no. I hate them both. They're both annoying at that point. And they're just so toxic for each other. Like, not even toxic in just an enemies to lover sort of way, but like toxic in like you two need to be on opposite ends of the globe. You are not compatible in any way, shape, or form sort of toxic. Like, there's enemies to lovers, and then there's I'm trying to reform and love the bigot who sees me and my people as animals and demons that need to be cleaned from the earth. Like, that's what this relationship was. Girl, this is not Purple Hearts. Dump him! But the other two ships, aka the eternally pining will they won't they of Kaz and Inej, and the bickering co-workers to adorable crushes Jesper and Wylan, I love those two ships and want them all to be together by the end. Like, I'm not sure if they will be together by the end of the book, but I want those two pairs to end up together. I do. Now, I do have all the Grishaverse books, so I will be reading the second one sometime in 2024, and I will hopefully get to the King of Scars duology as well. Next up is Five Survive by Holly Jackson. What is this about? Six kids go on a road trip for spring break, but things quickly get deadly. They get lost in the woods, and soon a sniper does everything possible to trap them and make it impossible to call for help. The sniper tells them that one of them has a secret he wants and that they need to figure out who it is so the person with the secret can die while the rest of them get to live. Now trapped in an RV with life or death on the line, things plunge into madness as truths are revealed, trust is betrayed, and only 5 survive the night. Now, I gave this one a 2.5 out of 5. I loved the A Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy. Like, I loved all 3 books. I gave them all 5 out of 5 stars. So I was very, very excited when this was announced. I was very excited to pick this up. Unfortunately, it fell flat for me. It did. Like, okay, let's first say what was done well, though. The atmosphere. Oh my god, the atmosphere is so good. Like, I have never felt so stressed and on edge while reading a book. I could feel like my hands shaking from what was happening and like what could happen next. It was just great. Like I could feel my heart start to race, my blood start to like boil and stuff like that. Like it was really good. I really love the atmosphere of this book. It is so freaking good. There is one character the author really wanted to make sure we all hated, and she did accomplish that. She did accomplish that because he pissed me off with every single breath he took. And I have never wished for a fictional character to die as much as I wanted him to die. I won't say whether he is the one that dies or not, like, could be him, could be one of the others. I'm not gonna spoil that. Like, when the secrets were coming out and the unlikable guy, his girlfriend revealed that, she cheated on him for months and was low-key only staying with him because his family had money, I was actually on her side. I was actually on the cheating girlfriend side. Like, I'm sorry, don't get it twisted. I don't approve of cheating whatsoever, but like in this one specific fictional case, I will approve of it because he was a bastard. Like, and she was going to medical school, so she likely had student debt. Like, okay, like, heck, get what you can out of him as repayment for him wasting your time, queen. Like, get what you can out of him. Anyway, now let's talk about what didn't really work for me. The main character, Red. Yeah, she was, for lack of better wording, frazzle-brained. To, like, an annoying degree, and it never got better. I know Red has immense trauma, and I feel bad for her. And if she were real, I would not say anything bad about her whatsoever. But she's fictional, so I can say whatever I want about her. And her lost, dazed, confused, dissociated state and weak will for the entire story, it was really just there to double the word count of this book. I mean, if this story was told from, like, anyone else's point of view, Red would be, like, the most forgettable character. Like, by far the most forgettable out of all 6 of them. And this book would have probably been, like, 200 pages shorter, because, like, yeah, her internal monologue with her rambling and mind wandering and all this kind of stuff, it just went on and on and on. It just added so many pages. Like, you could literally cut this book in half, it would work just fine. It would work just fine. Okay, maybe that's mean to say, but oh well. She's fictional. Like, I don't really have hard feelings about shitting on a fictional character. Sorry. The other big thing that didn't work for me was the plot itself. It really didn't. I won't spoil what happens, but when everything, like, came out and all the pieces, like, slotted together, it was just too outlandish for me. Even for a young adult thriller where you expect a certain level of out there-ness, like, it was just way too outlandish. And when everything was, like, laid out and the how we even got there to begin with was revealed, it all just felt so disconnected from the main cast and so centered on characters that were only ever mentioned in passing. Like, no, literally. You could remove like 4 out of the 6 kids in this book who are like the center of the story, and the plot line would still play out the exact same. Like, what actually matters in the plot line would play out the exact same. Like, you could cut out four out of the 6 of them, and it will play out the exact same. And the 2 that remain are really only, like, barely connected to the bigger stuff. Like, basically no one in this book really mattered. And this should have actually been about the background adults, because it's actually their story, and the characters that we follow are just footnotes, really. Like, they really don't matter. If the adult story had been the actual book instead of the background and setup to get the kids in/out of the trapped RV, this probably could have been a fun, campy book about, like, you know, lawyers and mafia and all that kind of stuff. But instead, it's just outlandish, disconnected, and boring. Also, the twist, especially towards the end, yeah, the twists were just twisting for the sake of twisting and being twists. And twisting. I swear, the amount of absurdity of the twist in this book was like watching a tornado play Twister while starring in a soap opera. Like, it was so unserious. It was so unserious. And like every 2 pages, when something new got revealed in like the last 30%, it was never an, oh my god, no way kind of twist. It was normally more so like, oh, of fucking course, why not just throw that in here now? Like, okay. Why don't we just throw in everything in the kitchen sink, apparently? It was kind of like that sort of twist, you know, like, yeah, the twists were kind of giving off that sort of energy. Like, it just didn't really work for me overall. Let's move on. Now we move on to October, starting with 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. This is an adult mystery slash thriller where a guy attends a fancy party, and the star of the party gets murdered. Now he begins waking up in a new body of one of the guests or servants and reliving the day of the murder over and over again until he figures out who done it. This isn't bad, I think. Like, I want to say that first of all. This is not bad, in my opinion. I'm just not the right audience for it. Like, it's a me problem. I'm not the right audience for it. Personally, I was bored and found the main character boring, plus I hated that he starts out not really knowing anything that's going on, and it takes him a while to, like, catch up to what the audience already knows by reading the back cover. So, yeah, it took a while to get things going. And when I dropped the book, I was like 5 chapters in, and the plot really still hadn't, like, kicked off. We were still in the, oh my god, I don't know what anything is sort of stage. Like, how did I get here? Oh no. Yeah, we were still doing that when I dropped the book. And we were like 5 chapters in. It's like, come on, speed it up. But really, like I said, I just don't think I'm the right audience for this. I feel like this is more written for people in their middle ages who just want a fun murder mystery with a time travel element. And they want something to, like, read at the beach or in a cabin somewhere, you know, like on vacation. And, like, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just not at that point in life yet. However, if the reviews are anything to go off of, you know, the Goodreads reviews, this book does seem to be pretty popular with its intended demographic, its intended audience. So I love that for them, and I love that for the author. You know, we love that. But yeah, anyway, let's move on to A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. If you've watched my video on this, you know where this is going. You know how much I hate this book. But anyway, this is the second book in the new adult fantasy series, A Court of Thorns and Roses. This one follows Feyre and Tamlin when they are getting married, but Tamlin has become abusive, so Rhysand shows up to whisk her way to another court in Prythian, and they become lovers, her and Rhysand do. There's also this guy who's only called the King of Highborn, who wants to take over the world, and we make like a half-hearted attempt to stop him because we need some sort of bigger plot. You know, like, we're civilized people over here. We can't have the entire book be about fucking the Fae, you know. We have to have, like, some semblance of an actual plot, or at least, like, 10% of the time. Like, come on now, we're civilized over here. Anyway, I give this one a 1 out of 5, and it is the bottom 3 worst books of my year. I'm pretty sure this is, like, my least favorite book of the year, and that's saying something, considering everything with Miss Coho that I read this year. You know, like, that's saying something. Anyway, like I said, I have a full video on my channel about this, just ranting about how stupid and horrible and bad this book is. So go watch that after this. I thought I was entertaining in that one, to be honest. Like, I did. I thought it was kind of entertaining in that one, especially, like, towards the middle and towards the end. Like, yeah. But anyway, to summarize, the romance is dumb and so unnecessarily erotic to the point that I was, like, skipping parts of this book. 98% of the cast fucking sucks and needs to die. Like, not just deserves, needs to die. Like, for the good of society. Like, Feyre, Tamlin, Rhysand, they all need to die. For the good of society. The plot is so bad and thrown together because someone told Sarah that, like, we have manners here, so only 90% of the book can be about fairy dick instead of 100%. And the climax is literally the worst climax I have ever read in a story. Like, ever. And that's including Wattpad fanfics. Like, girl, the bar is below hell. The bar's not even in hell, it's below hell. Oh my god. The climax is so confusing and nonsensical and forcibly starts and stops whenever Sarah needs it to. Like, it's just awful. And like I said, this is like my least favorite book of the year. Like, it's so horrible. Oh my god. Anyway, overall thoughts on the series so far. Book 1 is passable but nothing special. Book 2 is an absolute train wreck that I have no idea how it even got published. Other than, like, the publisher saw dollar signs. Like, that's the only way that I can think that Mist and Fury got published, is the author was like, yep, it's gonna sell, like, push it through, Like, it's gonna sell. We're gonna make bank on it. Yep, we don't give a fuck what the quality is. Just push it through. We need some money for something. Like, that's the only reason that I can think of Mist and Fury was published the way it is. Anyway, Feyre's trash, Rhysand is trash, Tamlin's trash, everybody's trash. Like, we cannot have any other possible ships as of right now, because 2 pieces of soggy cardboard would have more chemistry than any of Feyre's romances. Like, it's true. I hate everyone in this series except for the goth cousin Moore, Amarantha. I'm charging Sarah with a hate crime for killing Miss Malevolent Batty so soon. Amarantha deserved to be the main villain. I'm gonna say that. She deserved to be the main villain. I don't care. I found her entertaining. I did. I also liked Alice the maid, and Feyre's snobby sister Nesta was also kind of cool, though I did hate her like half the time also. No offense. Actually, full offense. Full offense. If you left this series and come within like 200 feet of me, like, I'm spraying you with raid. I'm spraying you with raid. Because, no, get away from me. No. No. And no, I am not going to be finishing this series. Love y'all, but 40 views is not enough to justify the self-inflicted torture I'd endure by continuing this series to make videos about the other, like, 3, I think 4 books now, because I saw a new one got announced. So, yeah, so, no, I'm sorry, I love y'all, but it's not worth justifying the self-inflicted torture. It's really not. Plus, also, Sarah J. Maas is a Zionist, so fuck her. Like, yeah, no, never reading anything by her again. Like, even if her other books are good, which I don't think they are. I don't think they are, honestly. But, like, even if her other books were somehow good, I would never read another book from her again, simply because she is a Zionist. You know, fuck Zionists. Next up is Mistakes Were Made by Meryl Wilsner. What is this about? This is an adult romance about a college girl accidentally hooking up with her mom's friend. No. No, that's a completely different thing. What is this about? This is an adult romance about a college girl accidentally hooking up with her friend's mom, and then the two of them wanting to continue doing so and navigating that sticky situation. Alexa, play Bad Idea Right by Olivia Rodrigo. Like, now I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. I kind of figured that it would be like a 3 stars going into it, so I'm not mad about it, I'm not disappointed about it. Yes, I picked this up purely because of the messy drama. Drama, I bring drama. Is it that well written? No. Why do you think it's got a 3 stars? But it's fun, it's messy. I enjoyed it. The inevitability of the friend/daughter finding out about the relationship was handled in a surprising and kind of unique way, honestly, so points for that. Look, this book is not winning any awards, but if you just want a MILF book, this is for you. Like, have at it. This is for you. This is for all the MILF lovers out there. Next up is I Kissed Shara Wheeler by Casey McQuiston. This young adult mystery follows a girl who gets kissed by the most popular girl in school out of the blue right before the popular girl goes missing. Now, with her boyfriend and this other guy that the popular girl randomly kissed, the 3 of them follow her trail of clues to figure out why she kissed the 2 randos and how they're all connected to her sudden disappearance. I gave this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Alright, we are 3 for 3 here, so Casey is now a certified parent for me. Welcome to the Hall of Fame, legend. Welcome to the Hall of Fame. I really enjoyed this book and had a lot of fun reading it. It's a really snappy page-turner. Like, I just kept wanting to listen to find out what happened next, honestly. Like, I really, really did. The book is billed as mainly a mystery, but it's really like half a fun mystery book and half a self-discovery book, because almost everyone in this book is having like some sort of awakening, like whether it be like sexuality, gender, self-expression, whatever. Everybody's having some sort of awakening. A lot of the stuff about the Christian academy they go to reminded me quite a bit about the private school that I used to attend to, with like purity culture and scaring kids into obedience by telling them that they're going to hell every 2 seconds. I was surprised at the halfway point when the story took a massive turn. I won't spoil what happens, but honestly, I was living for it. It got even more interesting after that. Like, it really, really did. Also, Chloe, the main character, is a bitch, but I was living for it. Like, I was living for it, and I'm glad that she acknowledges that she's a bitch. I'm glad that she acknowledges that about herself, because she really, really is. But I really do still like her. Like, she was really fun and nice to follow. Like, I really did like her. I liked all the characters, really, and seeing all of their, like, little realizations about themselves. Like, especially Smith. I really liked following his arc, and I would read a Smith spin-off sequel about, like, his adventures, whatever he's up to next in college. Like, if that ever came to be, like, I would read that book. But yeah, I really enjoyed it and can now say I love all of the McQuiston books so far, and I'm looking forward to their next one releasing this year. Not next year, this year. It's releasing this year, in June, I think. Also, skip ahead about like 10 to 20 seconds, because I just want to mention one real thing real quick, but it is a spoiler. Girl. When Chloe found Shara at the midway point and pushed her off the boat into the lake, I got scared for a second and was wondering if this had like gone from like I kissed Shara Wheeler to I killed Shara Wheeler. Like I got a little scared for a second. Like random side note, but I don't know. I just found that kind of funny. Anyway, let's move on to You by Caroline Kepnes. What is this about? If you've heard of the Netflix adaptation, you already know what this is about. It's an adult thriller about this guy who stalks a woman and manipulates her and the world around her so she falls in love with him. Yeah, I DNF'd this one. I like the show on Netflix, well, at least the first season. So I was curious about this. It's told in second POV, so it is like Joe is talking to / about, well, you. And the author does an amazing job at making you feel like you are being stalked by this like creepy, perverted incel that has deluded himself into thinking he's like an amazing guy, and it's the rest of the world that's at fault. But other than that, yeah, it's kind of insufferable. It's kind of insufferable. All of the characters beside Joe feel very surface level, and the only reason Joe doesn't feel surface level is because he's the narrator, so you're in his head with his thoughts all the time. And Joe is 100% a Mary Sue. Like, whatever the male equivalent to a Mary Sue is, Joe is 100% that. Like, because half of his schemes make no sense, and he should have been caught like 10,000 times in this book. Yet somehow, he's always able to get what he wants. Like, there's leaps in logic to force the plot to continue that make no sense, and once the gimmick of this book wears off, and you're still, like, stuck in Joe's mind with his thoughts for another, like, 350 pages, he quickly becomes so annoying and intolerable. Like, dude, shut the fuck up already. I like season 1 of the show. Like, they made it a lot better than the book, but I'm honestly just wondering how this book got popular enough to even warrant an adaptation. Like, I don't know. Like, how did this get popular? Like, it just, I don't know. Different people, different taste. Different people, different taste. Let's move on to November, starting with Iron Widow by Jiran J. Zhao. This is a new adult science fantasy about a girl who enlists in the army to avenge her dead sister by killing her murderer. It's soon discovered that her, like, willpower and spiritual strength is extremely high, so she's paired up with this other highly talented / dangerous pilot in the military, and they become overnight famous and try to use their natural power and newfound popularity to bring about change within the sexist structure that the military is built on. I gave this one a 2.8 out of 5. So, I was going through and cleaning out my Goodreads TBR a little bit ago. I need to do that again, honestly. And this one caught my eye as something that sounded really interesting, so I decided it was finally time to get it and start, giving it a listen after hearing about it for a few years now. Now, I've heard people say before that, like, you can tell when a book is a debut and or the first one that an author ever wrote, and I never really understood that statement until I read this one. It was entertaining enough. Like, I was never, like, completely bored, but I was never like, wow, The core theme of this book is feminism and how society and institutions of power are built on sexism. Obviously, I'm not the best person to say whether the message was handled well or not. Some reviews said it was amazing and groundbreaking in that department, while others said the main character was a pick-me, and every other female character was either dumb or evil. Like I said, I'm not really the best judge for whether the message was done well or not, but I figure I would mention that here because it was like a fairly common criticism that I kept seeing in the comments about, the reviews of this book, So so I figured I would mention it at least. What did I like about this book? I liked the bisexual polyamorous throuple between the main character, her best friend, and her co-pilot in the military. It was probably my favorite aspect of the book, and I wish they had gotten more time to be together, like as an official couple before the ending, you know? Like, I would have liked more time with them together. And also better chemistry, because I don't really think they had like the best chemistry, but oh well. I liked how the toxic family situation with the main character was handled. No spoilers, but most of the time in stories, the main character is either made to like forgive their abusive family or just like quietly cut them off without ever really truly standing up for themselves. But in this book, the main character is allowed to hold on to her justified anger at her family till the end and handle that situation in a much different way. Like, again, no spoilers, but like, she handled that well. She did. She handled that well. I was rooting for her in that department. I was. Everything else, though, was just kind of fine enough. Like, the characters were okay enough. The world building was okay enough. The plot was a mess, but it was okay enough. It was all just fine. Everything just felt very surface level to me, and like a Cliff Notes version of the characters, places, and events, and that's ultimately what drags this book down. I didn't hate it, but I also didn't love it either. The big twist at the end intrigued me enough to where I might pick up the next book when it releases, but I'm also not counting down the days in anticipation for it. Next is The Woman in Me by Britney Spears. This is a memoir by the legendary pop singer Britney Spears about her, like, rise to fame, the conservatorship she was under, everything. Her story told her way for the first time ever. I gave this one a 5 out of 5, and it is a favorite of the year. I've heard this is allegedly ghostwritten, and I don't care. I loved it. Now, I'm not really a memoir girly. Like, I think the only other memoir I've ever read is I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. I did love that one also. However, this moved me. This really moved me. I finished this in like a day and a half because, well, A, it is short, but also B, it was so interesting to listen to and felt like I was going on a journey through Britney's life, experiencing the highs and lows throughout it all, and how she feels about everything that has gone on, looking back on everything. You do learn some new things about her life, such as her getting pregnant with Justin Timberlake's kid and being forced to have an abortion, and you also get to hear about her perspective on things in greater detail than ever before, like how she was thinking and feeling all throughout the conservatorship, and, you know, her entire thought process and, like, what she was thinking and feeling when she was making her albums. Now, I know most people probably picked this up just to get, like, the juicy insider info about the conservatorship or the controversy she's been in over the years, and yes, all of that was interesting and made me emotional, as she does describe so many inhumane things that she experienced over the years, especially in the conservatorship. Like, she went through it. She went through it. Oh my god. Like, but the parts that were my favorite personally that I don't really see anyone talking about is when she would talk about like her artistry and passion and love about performing and creating music, honestly. And you can really tell which albums and tours were her favorites because she'll spend time taking you through not just her life at that time, but also how she was feeling about creating those things and how proud of it she was and still is. Like the Blackout album or the Dreams tour, she also talks about how the conservatorship completely drained her of her creativity and passion for music. And you can really tell that by the way she talks about the albums created during that time. Because, like, Circus, Femme Fatale, and Britney Jean, they're all, like, brushed over in a way that the other albums aren't. Glory isn't included in that list because even though it is, like, an album made under the conservatorship, she talks about how making that album was like a light during the dark period of her life and how it started to like reignite her creativity and artistry that had been lost for so long. And I personally really love that, especially because Glory is my favorite album of hers. So yeah, there's just so many interesting aspects about this book, from her music to her love life to her career to her family, that we could spend like hours talking about everything. But really, just go read the memoir. Honestly, if you have Spotify Premium, it's included on there, and it's only like 5 hours long, so go read the memoir. It's really highly worth the read. I really do recommend it. Next is The Christmas Catch by Claire Leon. This is an adult romance where two old childhood friends that haven't seen each other in years coincidentally bump into each other at the airport on the way back to their hometown for Christmas. Unfortunately, the weather grounds all flights, so now the two ladies have to figure out how to get home in time for the holidays and decide to go on that journey together. Through hitchhiking, train riding, and biking in the snow, Morgan and Allie will not only reconnect on their way back home, but may just catch new feelings for each other and end up under the mistletoe. I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, call me basic, but I love a we gotta get home in time for Christmas type of road trip story. I'm sorry, movies, shows, books now. I love a good Christmas road trip story. I do. I liked following Morgan and Allie on their adventure back home and back to each other, and this gives me exactly what I was looking for in a holiday romance. It's cute, it's simple, it's fun, it's cheesy, it's romantic. What else can I say? What else can I say? My only criticism of this book is that it was hard to differentiate between the two perspectives. It didn't really help that the audiobook is narrated by only one lady, because both of the characters' voices are very, very similar. Luckily, this book does flip back and forth between Morgan and Allie's perspectives every other chapter, so if I got confused about whose head we were in, I would just have to, look at the chapter number and remember, okay, odd numbers for Morgan, even numbers for Allie. But yeah, tiny thing, but overall I really enjoyed this book. Next is Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree. This is an adult fantasy about a woman who opens a coffee shop and all the ups and downs that come with starting a small business. I gave this one a 3.7 out of 5 stars. I have a video planned to come out soon. I'm pretty sure it's going to come out in 2 weeks, so it'll be my next video, hopefully. So I will save most of my thoughts for that video. But overall, it kept its promise of being simple, cute, and cozy, which is all I can really ask for in all honesty. It kept its promise. Next is Champion by Marie Lu. This is the third and final book in the Legend trilogy. Now, back in the good graces of the Republic, June and Day must face new problems as the colonies seek to wage war against them. They'll have to use all of their knowledge, experience, and will in order to put an end to the war and save the country they've worked so hard to get peace in. I gave this one a 5 out of 5. It is a favorite of the year. Mainly, I put it in my favorites of the year to represent the entire series, so yeah. This is honestly more of a 4-star, but I gave it a 5 out of 5 because the ending did make me emotional. So, if you make me emotional, you automatically get a 5 out of 5. I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Now, my thoughts on it. It is the best one in the trilogy. It is. It is. It's exciting, it's fun, and fast-paced just like the first one. The characters feel slightly more mature, the stakes are higher than ever, and the ending was very well done. The only thing I'll say is that the climax did feel Wattpad-y. If you know, you know. But other than that, it is really solid. My overall thoughts on the series are this. It is different than many other books from the early to mid-2000s teen dystopian craze, in a good way, with unexpected twists in the story at many times. This series, unlike a lot of other, YA dystopia books from that time period, this series does not feel like a Hunger Games copycat, so obviously points for that. Of course, since I read this at 21, 22, the whole teenagers running the military and a revolution thing is very unserious to me now, but if I had read this when I was 13 to 15, I would be obsessed with it. I would have been obsessed with this series, truly, truly. I like the series overall, I like Lou's writing, I grew attached to the main characters and their personal journeys, and it really is a highlight of my reading year. I really do enjoy this series. Also, side note, I found it kind of funny how I seemed to read the series in the same time frame as when the events take place. I read the first 2 books in about 2 months, and the events of the first 2 books take place in about 2 months. And then I waited about 7 to 8 months before reading the third one, and the third one takes place 8 months after the second one. That wasn't planned, by the way. That wasn't planned. That just happened coincidentally, but I just found that kind of funny. Anyway, let's move on to December, starting with The Christmas Swap by Talia Samuels. This is an adult romance about this woman, Margaret, who is going to spend Christmas alone, but then she meets this guy, Ben, who is hey, you're lonely, I need a date to bring home for Christmas because my family thinks I'm a loser destined to be forever alone. Like, let's help each other out. So Margaret agrees to be Ben's fake girlfriend for Christmas and spend the holiday at his family's mansion, but over the holidays, Margaret actually ends up hitting it off with Ben's sister, Ellie. And the two ladies got to decide if they're gonna keep things on the down low or like fully take a chance at Christmas love. Now, this one turned me into a Grinch, a Scrooge, a whatever. Like, my heart shrunk 3 sizes while reading this. I DNF'd it. I hate both of these women, okay? I'm sorry. They're just mean and unserious. Margaret agrees to be a fake girlfriend. Okay, not anything serious, mind you. Just being like, yeah, we've been dating for a few months. He's nice and treats me well. Like, that's it. Like, you just have to say that you like the guy. That's it. Like, super casual. But then when it's time to actually like put on a show for the family, she freaks out and flees the scene instantly. Like, so why'd you agree to come? Why did you agree to be here if you're not going to play the part? Like, why'd you agree to be here if you're not going to hold up your end of the agreement? I'm just curious. I mean, okay, to be fair, I guess I can't really blame her, because it is a free vacation at a huge mansion, so I get it. Like, I get her reasons for not being serious about this thing, but, like, still, you promised something, you made a commitment, follow through with the commitment, basically. I also really could not stand Margaret's, like, I'm not, like, normies, I'm an indie chick energy she had going on. Like, I really just could not stand it. And then Ellie immediately knows that there is, like, something off between Margaret and Ben, and mind you, the only reason that Ellie suspects there is something off between Margaret and Ben is because she thinks her brother is such a fucking loser that he could not possibly, in any multiverse ever, pull a woman as hot as Margaret. Yeah. I can't. Anyway, so Ellie does not buy their fake relationship for 1 minute, so she wants to know what's up, okay? But the way she goes about trying to figure out what's going on is so stupid. It really, really is. It was giving Spy Kids / Disney Channel energy, with her, like, coming up with elaborate plots to corner Margaret alone so she can interrogate her instead of just being an adult and asking straight up, like, okay, girlie, be honest with me. Like, are you here for the money, or is there something else going on? Because I don't believe you're actually with my brother, so what's going on? Like, woman to woman, what's going on? Girl, you're all in your 30s. Grow up. Please grow up. Like, I don't know. Maybe because I haven't hit 30 yet, I don't understand, the unseriousness of it all. Like, maybe when I'm hit 30, I'll be just as unserious, but, like, for right now, I'm gonna say grow up. Grow up! But also, the way both of them, Margaret and Ellie, were shit-talking poor Ben the whole time was so mean. It was so mean. Like, do you know how mean you have to be to get me to feel bad for the man? I felt bad for the man. Do you know how mean you have to be to get me to feel bad for the man? The man. Ooh, no. Like, both of them in their internal monologues, this is dual POV, by the way, both of them were like, yeah, he's a total loser that never shuts the hell up. Like, we pity the poor bastard, but he either needs to start acting normal, or he needs to find a girl that is equally as weird and pathetic as him. If there even is one in the world. Like, oh my god. He hasn't done anything. Poor Ben hasn't done anything besides being nice, at least so far. I only made it like a few chapters in before I DNF'd it, but he hasn't done anything. He's just been nice so far. Like, why are we dragging the poor man? I don't know. I made it like 5 chapters in before I had to quit because I just could not take it anymore. I could not take the constant negativity or the ridiculousness of what was happening. Look, it's a Christmas rom-com, so you do expect some level of ridiculousness and unseriousness. Like, that just comes with the genre. That's part of the fun. But, like, even still, there's, like, a limit to how far we can go on the nonsense scale, and this book crossed it several times. Next is Before the Devil Knows You're Here by Autumn Cross. Yes, I read a demon book during Christmas time. Ooh, how festive. This is a young adult gothic horror that puts a dark spin on the tale of Johnny Appleseed. It centers on this girl, Catalina, yes, like the salad dressing, that is the first thing that came to my mind, whose brother is kidnapped by Johnny, so she's on a mission to get him back. And along the way, she meets this lumberjack guy who accompanies her on her way and becomes the love interest. You also get part of the story told from Johnny Appleseed's perspective as he takes you through his life and how he wanted nothing more than to run an apple farm, but was unsuccessful, so he sold his soul to the devil and was cursed to become a terrifying monster whose apples brought nothing but horror wherever they fell. Now, I gave this one a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I did. I had a fun time reading this. Now, I've never read a horror book before now, and I don't really know much about the story of Johnny Appleseed, aside from like one quick Google search, so this was an enjoyable first time experiencing both. I like the fast pacing, both Catalina and John were interesting to follow in their journeys, and I had fun listening to the story overall. I will say the story is very simplistic, especially on Catalina's side, to the point where I was hoping for some more depth with everything, because the characters and events did feel quite shallow. Like, it wasn't a big enough problem to where I was not interested or didn't care about what was going on, but it just was something that I kept noticing while reading and kept having this feeling of like wanting something more out of everything, just a little something more. I think the strongest aspect of this book, though, is the writing. I thought it was very nice and flowy and made up for the shallowness of the story, honestly. So, yeah, I really enjoyed this. Next up is Whiteout by Danielle Clayton, Tiffany D. Jackson, Nick Stone, Angie Thomas, Ashley Woodfolk, and Nicola Yoon. This is a YA short story collection all centered on black teens finding love in the midst of an extreme Atlanta blizzard. I unfortunately gave this one a 2 out of 5 stars. Yeah, I read this team's other short story collection, Blackout, and I really, really loved that one. I really loved Blackout. It was one of my favorite reads of 2021, so I was really, really excited to read this one when I found out about it, and yeah, it just didn't really live up to my hype and expectations. It didn't. I'm gonna be honest, I have written this part of the script multiple times, because each time I go off on a rant about each of the 6 couples, but I am going to try my best to keep this as short as possible. I'm going to try my best. Alright, so Stevie and Sola, the main couple that this book focuses on. Yeah, Sola is way too forgiving. Sola's way too forgiving. I would have blocked Stevie before they even left the dinner table. Like, For what Stevie pulled that night with the coming out party, no. You're getting blocked. We're done. I'm not giving you, like, 3 days to make up for me. I don't care, like, what big grand gestures you have to make up for it and apologize to me. No. We're done. So maybe Sola's a better person than me, but yeah. Kaz and Portia, by far the most toxic couple in this book. And that's saying something, considering one of the other couples is literally, like, feuding exes, and like, them coming back together. We'll get to them later. But, like, yeah, Kaz and Portia, the most toxic pair in this book, by far. All they do is fight in their story. They do nothing but fight in the story. Oh my god. I do not like them together whatsoever. Evan Rose, Savannah, and Eric, I liked this one simply because Miss ER is a mess. She's a mess to follow. Like, I was living for the drama that involves, like, keeping secrets and, you know, low-key cheating. But personally, I'm gonna be honest, I think Savannah and Eric should have told Evan Rose to, like, fuck off for low-key being a cheater. Because, like, she was low-key a cheater to both of them, honestly. Like, I don't know what to tell you. She was fun to follow, but she's a cheater. Like, they should have told her to fuck off. Jordan and Amari, they are the only couple in this book that I support. They are the only couple in this book that I legitimately liked seeing end up together. They are adorable. And I loved it when they decided to make the most of, like, the halted traffic, you know, the, like, blocked up highway traffic that they're on with, like, the snow and everything. And, like, they just, like, decided to start having a snowball fight in the middle of the highway. Like, I don't know, it was fun, it was cute. I really like Jordan and Amari. They were so cute. I like them. Jimmy and Tio, I think he's an arrogant asshole. I think Tio is an arrogant asshole. I really, really do. Like, don't try acting sweet when you recognize her, boy. Like, you already showed your true colors when you bumped into her on the street and then started yelling at her about how much of an inconvenience she is, and this, that, and the third, and blah, 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 before you recognized who she was, and then you were like, oh, hey, nice to see you again. You look hot. Like, no. Boy, Tio, shut the fuck up. Don't like you. All I'm gonna say is, I hope Jimmy, like, uses him to, like, get a record deal for her band and then, like, dumps him, to be honest. Like, I'm just hoping that Jimmy uses him. Sorry, I am. And then finally, Ava and Max. I liked the dual POV aspect of their thing. They are the, like, feuding exes that I was talking about earlier. I thought they were both very enjoyable to follow in their POVs, but, like, I will say this. Can they read each other's minds? Because, like, when one of them would think something in their internal monologue, the other would then respond to it. Like it was a fourth wall break, but it was also like, like, I'm reading your mind, you're reading my mind. So, like, can they read each other's minds? Like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, okay, superpowers. Superpowers. But I'm gonna be so honest, like, Ava's mom was so correct when she said that these two are not gonna last past graduation. Truly, I'm sorry. Like, yeah, there's a reason y'all initially broke up. Like, I'm sorry, she's right. Y'all are not gonna make it past graduation. Sorry. Overall, some aspects were fun, others were boring and annoying, and I really only support one of the 6 couples in this book, so yeah, that's disappointing. Like, I still love Blackout, though. And finally, we have Suns Will Rise by Jessica Brody and Joanne Rendell. This YA sci-fi dystopia is the third and final book in the System Divine trilogy. The series is set on this distant planet that has a strict caste system where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. It's about these 3 people, Chantine, Marcellus, and Owlette. I'm probably butchering the names. I'm probably going to butcher every single name here because it's French. It's based on French, even though I think both of the authors are American. But, like, all the names are French here. I don't speak French, so I'm probably going to butcher the names. But anyway, it's about these 3 people, Chantine, Marcellus, and Owlette, who all come from different walks of life with totally different experiences, and they band together to take down their oppressive government and liberate the people of their planet once and for all. I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. I've been debating whether to give this a 4 or 5 stars, but I figured this. I initially gave it a 4 star because it really does feel like a 4 star most of the time, but I liked it more than the second one, and I did give the second one 5 stars, so it's like, if I gave the second one 5 stars, but I like this one more than the second one, why would I give this one 4 stars, yeah. So, so this one got a 5 out of 5, just like the other 2 books in this trilogy, so I enjoyed this final entry in the series, and currently have that, like, bittersweet feeling where I had fun on the journey, and I'm happy how it turned out, but I'm also, like, so sad that it's now over, and I have to say goodbye to this world and these characters that I've come to love so much. Yeah, I'm bittersweet. Like, I really liked it, but it's also like, oh, I don't want to leave you. I don't want to leave. I don't exactly know how to speak on this book without spoiling massive things from the previous 2 entries in case anyone wants to check this out, which I really do highly recommend this series. I really, really do. I really love this series. But I will try my best. I will be honest. For most of this book, it didn't really feel like we were in the end stages of a revolution. It still very much felt like we were in the preparation stage. Like, it very much felt like we could have extended this to, like, a 4th book, honestly. Like, I don't know how these 2 women do it, but somehow in all 3 of these books, the first, like, 500 pages feel very slow and, like, we're taking our time building up the conflict, but then the last, like, 200 pages leaps in both action and tension, and the world starts crashing down around everyone. But somehow, it all does feel mostly natural and makes sense. And seamless, honestly. Like, the way that their minds work, apparently, it's interesting. I would like to know how their minds are able to pull that off. Like, this is interesting. Like I said, I did think that this was more interesting and exciting than the second book. I'm not sure if it's my favorite of the series yet. I'm not sure if, like, the first one is my favorite or this one is my favorite. I'm really not sure as of right now. all of the deaths in this book I felt were handled very well, and very satisfying ends for each character for one reason or another, whether it was like a good death, a bad death, whatever. Like, I felt like all of the deaths were very well handled, and, you know, they were satisfying. And I'm also glad that quite a few people on both sides died. That's bad of me to say, especially since, like, Goodreads was, like, crying over one person that died. Like, I'm sorry, that person deserved it. I found them annoying, honestly. But, yeah, maybe that's nasty of me, but like, I'm sorry. I was kind of glad about a few people that died on both sides, because you know it is a bit unserious when some authors write about war and then like one evil person dies, because like, come on now, like, come on, you're telling me that like all of your good characters have immunity? Really? Be serious right now. The endings of the three main characters I thought were really good. Chantine and Marcellus' endings, fine, I guess. Like, it had been an option set up since the first book, so I can't really be mad at their endings. Oulette's ending, I thought it made perfect sense for her and who she is as a character and what she wanted out of life from the very beginning, so I am very happy with where Owlette ended up in the very end. Yeah, I am. This series' weakest aspect by far has always been the shipping, and that was on full display in this book. 'Cause I'm sorry, people on Goodreads were crying about how the shipping game ended here, but like, y'all, none of the ships in this series are that good. None of them are that good, in my opinion. Okay, let me just do a quick rundown of the ships and the ship possibilities. Okay, Chantine and Entine. That's how I pronounce their names. I'm sorry. Like I said, I'm probably going to pronounce the names wrong. But Chantine and Entine, they have nice banter, but I think he's whiny. I do. I think he's a whiny man, baby. And also, I really could not stand him after what him and Gabriel did in space by sending her little brother on an extremely dangerous mission without telling her, because they knew she would go into protective big sister mode. Like, yeah, no shit, she'd freak out. She's already thought her brother had died twice in life. Of course she's going to be overly protective. And you bitches, you, Entine and Gabriel, are disgusting, in my opinion, for deceiving Chantine like that, and then restraining her so she could not intervene. You're both nasty for that. I could not stand either one of those guys after that. I really couldn't. Anyway, Chantine and Marcellus, girl, that has always been kind of sad. That's always been kind of sad. Because she's been, like, throwing herself at him since the first book, and he's always been chasing after Owlette. Because, like, and only looking at Chantine is like, a nice second choice. Like, okay. Like, I like you, like, you know. Owlette's not into me, so, you know, I can be with you right now. It's like, girl, stand up. Find someone who will pick you first. Not you don't deserve to be someone's secondary choice. Come on, girl, stand up. Marcellus and Owlette, that's also very sad, because he's been trying to get with her since forever, and can't seem to get the hint that she just wants to be friends. Like, I'm sorry, she just wants to be friends. Like, I'm sorry, I personally think Owlette's a lesbian, or at least bi favoring women. Like, there were some fruity moments she had towards Circe in this book that even he was picking up on, and she literally laughed in Marcellus's face when he kissed her. Like, and I can't blame her, because I laughed too. I laughed when that happened too. I did. Because it's just like, they make no sense together. They don't. He wants so badly to get with her, but she just wants to be friends. They have zero chemistry. There's no chemistry between them. It's so boring. Oh my god. Like, and Circe x Gabriel, I was on board with that ship in, like, the second book, and, like, for most of this book, honestly, like, you know, most of the time I thought that they were cute, until he said what he said to her in the tent. If you know, you know. Until he said what he said to her in the tent. He's nasty for that. And, like, that happened after what I said earlier about him and Entine teaming up against Chantine. So he was already on my shit list at that point, and, like, what he said to Circe in the tent towards the end, Yeah, no, 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 no. If you're not going to accept someone fully, get the fuck out. If you're only going to like accept part of someone and then like try to change the other half of someone, get the fuck out. Bye. 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 Then they tried to like have him overcome that bias of like if you know, you know. Like they like tried to have him overcome that bias that he had towards her in like the very end. But like, girls, ladies, ma'ams, I'm going to need more than one sentence to redeem him after that low-key dehumanizing monologue that he gave her in the tent. I'm going to need more than like one sentence to redeem him after that. Yeah, no. So, yeah. I didn't like the shipping aspect at all in the series. Like, it was just unserious. It was just unserious. But, other than that, other than the shipping, I love the plot, I love the character arcs, I love the characters, and I felt like everything ended in a satisfying way. Like, okay, maybe not in the exact way that I like hoped for, because there were, you know, a few people I think could have been killed off. Just saying. Like, you know, maybe that's wrong of me, but you know, there were still like a few people that could have died. But like overall, this was a very satisfying and good ending nonetheless, and I'm very happy to have spent my time reading the series over the last 2 years. I love the Season of Divine trilogy. It's so good. It really is so good. And with that, we have finally come to the end of what I read in 2023. And that is it from me. If you like this video, then please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you know when I upload next. Tell me in the comments what you read last year. You know, what were some of your favorite books? What were some of your least favorite books? If you've read any of the books on this list, what did you think of them? I'm curious. I am very curious. But anyway, that's it from me. Bye.